She poisoned you?
Yes. And she prepares this whole meal for me in a glass dish. So she gets a call, Armenian, kind of heated sounding conversation. She's like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. She left, pulled the chicken out. It looks good. So I eat a lot of it. I went to bed. I remember like just getting violently sick. This is bad. And then I was too weak to kind of move. That's the last thing that I remember before waking up in an ambulance.
This chick gave you rat poison and dipped?
Yeah.
Zach, you ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to have a conversation for the first time.
Let's do it.
Wild Chaos fashion. Before we get started, I'm going to send you with some merch. This is actually a really badass company, Arrowhead Tactical Apparel. They make concealed clothes for everything. They have hoodies that you can put your hands through. They got shorts, pants. They got some really cool stuff. So I want to send you home with a hat from those guys.
Awesome.
We're also going to send you home with a fresh baked sourdough loaf from the Kids Bakery, which our audience loves to support, and I can't thank them enough for that. I'm going to send you home some Wild Chaos teas. So, Zach, we got a conversation ahead of us. I don't know anything about you except for a little brief conversation. So I'm going to just try to get this dialed really quick, and we're going to dive into this. From what I've gathered, your life seems almost like a action movie. So you have been fortunate enough to live all over the world, from Russia, Kyrgyzstan.
Close enough. Yeah, we missed a letter, but we're good.
Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah. Just one of the stands.
The stands. Austria, a bunch of places. During this time, you were trying to actually be like a spy for...
That's what I wanted. That was the goal originally. Failed, but...
We'll get into why. And so during this time, you've been able to travel, live all over the world, experience a bunch of stuff. You ended up getting detained in the desert. You've been poisoned overseas. Mm-hmm. Along with a bunch of other stuff. You ended up getting tied into the AI world before AI is what it is now. So I want to dive into that. You went through a layoff, which shifted your life a little bit and made you have to kind of rethink things. That you were pitched the whole go to college, get an education, which kind of led you into the wanna be a spook path. Followed it like everybody else does. And then everything kind of came to a crash, which you ended up finding yourself almost going into the blue collar world. And you ended up finding this passion in trapping because you had to support your family. You got mortgages like all of us else have to do. And you had to shift gears, which really opened your eyes up to, hey, maybe college isn't the only path for people. And in this time, you've started a family, you got kids, and you're a proud father, which is your greatest accomplishment. So
100% on that one. I know you feel the same way there.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started. Wife and kids, I am just a babbling, crying, just retard when it comes to that shit. And it's embarrassing, but I 100% get it.
I'm not embarrassed by it. I'll do it all day.
Well, it's embarrassing because I'm always crying on the internet about it. But hey, a lot of guys connected with it. So I
teared up the other day when we were up at our cabin, which I'll get into. But we have chipmunks.
Yeah.
And my 5-year-old was sitting in my lap. I'm like, we're going to get this chipmunk to come in our lap. And we sat out there for like 2 hours with a bag of peanuts. And then that little chipmunk, we like entered our Disney princess era together and like had the chipmunk sitting up in our lap. And I was like a little misty eyed over a chipmunk. But man, it happens.
Kids are the greatest thing, man. I feel horrible. I see these videos every now and then. They're like, oh God, everybody's having kids around me. And I used to be in that mindset when I was in my mid-20s and we were having our second kid. I was not about it, and I was checked out for a while, and that's not a regret in my life, but I wish I would have been more involved at an earlier age, but hey, we're caught up now, so, but yeah, kids are the greatest gift, man. They will change you, especially girls.
I've got 2. One boy.
Catch myself crying over some dumb shit. Like
I went to a daddy-daughter dance last week.
Oh, bro.
Little dresses.
Yeah.
Put on my little nice shoes, picked them up, brought them flowers. They're like, you're the best dad in the world. And then we walked into the dance and we cut a rug for a couple hours. Well, an hour. It felt like a couple hours. Ate some cupcakes, went home. That was fucking awesome.
What more can you ask for?
Nothing.
That's when you walk in those venues, you're like, okay. Like, all right, not going to lose it. It's, dude, there's nothing greater.
I'm remarried. I didn't have kids with my ex-wife.
Thank God.
Yes.
I'm with you on that one. You're not ready to be married till you've been divorced.
Yeah, I think that's probably really true. You know what you want. You know what you want.
Or you know how to not, well, I want to say you know how to not screw up the second one, but I worked really hard at screwing up my second one too until I got my shit together. But you learn a lot.
You learn a lot and you can apply it and it's great. But I was in that same boat with my ex-wife. We didn't want kids. We were the dinks, right? Like, we were running around a little bit and we're like, we don't want that. We don't want that. And even when I went into my second marriage, I'm like, I don't know if I want this. Then it happened. I'm like, God, how did I not want this?
Dude, that's 100%. That's how it starts. All right, Zach, who are you? Where are you from? Let's dive into this episode.
Where am I from? I'm Zach Hansen. I live in Idaho now. I claim Idaho, even though no one in Idaho would let me claim Idaho because I've only been here like 8 years. Does that count, or is it like a 10-year mark? What's the cliff?
Did you come from California
I
here?
came from Louisiana.
Oh, you're good then.
I was a coon ass beforehand. So,
dude, you know the most coon ass dude I've ever met in my life?
who's that?
Carl Malone.
Really? Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, from Louisiana.
Yeah.
We were doing a hunt in Texas. He heard that we had a bunch of wounded vets out there, packed up his motorhome with his manager or whatever, and they drove out.
No kidding.
Shows up randomly. Dude, that one of the coolest athletes I've ever met. Spent the whole entire day, dude, cut each individual vet. He tells his manager, he's like, hey, go get the box. And he's like, the box? And he goes, the box. I'm like, what? I'm kind of listening. I'm like, what the fuck's in the box? Comes out with this beautifully custom made cigar box. It had beautiful. Opens it and the manager's like, I've never seen anything him ever offer any of these cigars ever before. Dude, he sat there and cut every single cigar, lit every single cigar, handed to all the vets. Fast forward like 4 years later, I'm in Soldotna, Alaska, Kenai area.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking a farmer's market. They're like, oh my God, it's Carl Malone. Oh my God, it's Carl Malone. And I'm like, I know Carl Malone. They're like, what? I'm like, I hung out with him for 2 days. Like, I know this dude. They're like, you're full of shit. I come walking up like, yo, he's like, bam, what's up? He's like, he's got a whole place up there. He runs like a farmer's market, like a little food stand in Soldotna every year. And
that's
the whole
some coon ass
community.
shit though. Like
Dude, that
all over
dude
the
though,
place.
he still uses a flip phone to this day.
God bless him. I have talked so much about reverting back. I think everybody has.
Dude, that's the whole generation. She was telling me all the kids now, they're all wanting to like go back to flip phones and shit. I'm like,
really?
Done.
Yeah.
I'll get you one right now.
We're going to the store. I think you probably have a hard time finding one more than anything.
You have to get a burner phone and just add it to your account or
An
something
old
like
Nokia
that.
brick, just put a new SIM card in it.
All right, dude, this is going to be a random ass podcast. I could already tell because we are off track 5 times already in the first 4 minutes. So we are from Louisiana originally.
No, from South Carolina originally.
Oh.
Came to Idaho from Louisiana, but I grew up in Georgia, South Carolina.
What was that like?
Yeah, typical, like urban, rural kind of setting. You know, I grew up with a lot of good old boys and, you know, a lot of new money in that area. So my parents, I grew up very middle class. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. You know, grew up in a, you know, quote unquote Christian family, Baptist family. Older sister, didn't have a lot in common with her. You know,
How old? How much older, I should say?
2 years.
Oh,
We grew up really close, you know, growing up, but as we grew up, we diverted, and now we're kind of reconverging, which is
Okay,
cool.
that's cool.
But, you know, she was very religious. I have an authority problem.
100%. Are you religious now?
Yes.
Okay. Was that your hold up?
I think so. You know, if I'm reflecting on it, probably.
That's how I am.
Yeah. I don't like people telling me what to do. And I'm like, you know, do as I say, not as I do. And that's what I saw a lot in our church growing up. Like, you know, do as I say, not as I do. Because there'd always be someone wrapped up in some controversy. I'm like, why am I listening to this person?
For sure.
And I didn't have the education to go into like the Bible or anything else to learn on my own. I was like, up until very recently, I always say I had like VBS level understanding.
Okay.
You know, like I knew the big stories and that was it. And that was fine. But my sister kept going. She ended up marrying a guy who went to seminary school, who's now a preacher at a church in Georgia. And they're great. They're wonderful. But that was kind of the household I was in. And like, was never really in the outdoors. You know, my family didn't grow up hunting, camping, doing any of that. We were just kind of like really steady Eddie kind of middle-class family. There was like no complaints there, you know, good childhood, no abuse, nothing like that. And was just told, go to college.
So that was everything, was to go to college.
Yeah. Whole life. I was as young as I can remember. I remember, you know, being probably 12. So late 90s, early 90s. And, you know, my grandma at the time had given me like $100 for a birthday card. I'm like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And this was like roaring 90s, you know, everything was good. And they're like, yeah, this is life. This is how it's going to always be. Like, all you need to do is follow the path. You go to college, you get a degree, doesn't matter what it's in, and you'll have a great life too. And I remember that from 12 until I graduated high school. That was just the story.
It's crazy how everything has changed in our country, in the world, except for our education here in the United States. Our public schools have not evolved at all, except for now.
I'd say regressed.
Extremely regressed. Kids don't even write anymore. Everything's on tablets and iPads, typing. I mean, the penmanship is such an important skill. My wife is one of those. She's an amazing writer. And
She probably writes nice cursive and everything.
Oh, dude, my daughters have the most, I write like a absolute retarded doctor.
Yeah.
A Marine.
Yeah. Well, you know, same.
Same. Yeah. So it's crazy now because I have an 18-year-old just graduated, and it was weird watching because her and I have these conversations how everybody, where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? Who have you signed with? Who are you looking at? And she's just like, why is that my only option? And that's the most mind-boggling thing of how we just, why do you have to go to, why is college our kids' only options? Why are we prepare our kids from birth as a father or parent. Our job is to prepare our children to leave our home one day and be out into the real world. And you mean to tell me I'm going to go through these 17, 18, 19 years, however long I'm blessed to have my children under my roof, that I can sculpt and help them. Then I'm going to be like, hey, go get yourself in debt. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's our best. And then now 90% of these people aren't even using their degrees that they just got themselves in debt with. So now you have to go find a entry-level job that's paying you $40,000, $50,000 a year.
Maybe, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, because you're fresh out, zero experience. So now you have to figure out life in this economy.
On your back heels.
In debt. Just, on getting punched and you're on your heels the whole entire time. It's like that's our best option. Now, I'm not discrediting college. If you want to go and be a doctor, an engineer, an architect, cool. And you're going to pursue that, and that's your... But these people that are going for world cultural studies and science and what the names of these degrees are hilarious to me. Even marketing and branding. If you're out of high school, go get a job, go intern and you're going to learn so much more getting into the realm of things and just everyday life of figuring out this skill. Get the job, then worry about the degree.
Get the job, then worry about the degree. But also, kids don't know what they want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
So did you ever see the thing where they asked all the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there's only like 10 things that kids answer to.
Policeman,
like,
fireman.
Firefighter, an astronaut, a lawyer, a doctor, a firefighter.
So that didn't change when I was 18.
No.
I was like, I guess if I'm picking out of the sorting hat, I'm going to pick a lawyer.
Yeah.
And
that's my option.
Yeah. That's
so
all
you
I
go to school
got.
for it. So, okay. So you go to school for what?
Political science.
Okay. Point proven.
Yeah, check mark on that one.
Political science.
And to be fair, my dad gave me the warning because my dad's an engineer. He's like, son, you're fucking up. I'm like, no, Dad, I got this. I know what it takes to be a lawyer. I know this is going to pay off. This is what everybody told me. It didn't pay off. So I go to do political science. And along the way, I ended up learning Russian in college. Like one of the benefits I will say about college, if you have to go down that path, is like there's general education.
Yeah.
So like you have to take a language, you have to do this. And when I was there, I postponed that for so long. I got to a point where they're like, you got to take a language this semester or, you get a fine or kicked out or whatever the punishment was. And it was like Greek or Russian. And there was a very attractive young lady in the Russian course. So like that was my deciding factor. I guess I'm going to learn Russian.
Every time.
They get you. But I kind of took to it and started learning the language, and it was fun. And then I had the opportunity through like a scholarship fund to go live in Russia for a year at a university.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from South Carolina, Georgia raised, now you find yourself in Russia. What's that like?
Well, it's funny. You learn a language in a classroom, and I thought I was like, slick, right? I'm like, I know this thing. You get over there and you realize you can't even like string a sentence together. Like it was the most embarrassing thing at first because I get there and I'd be trying my best to speak a little bit of Russian, and then they'd be like, comrade, let me speak to you in English. This is much easier for me, and it's like, yeah.
Here you are at college learning, and then you get there like, nah, dude, I want to speak English. It's way easier.
And I was the dumbest kid in my like class because it was a program. Like I somehow found myself in some of these like situations where I'm the dumbest person in the room, which is always not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
But I was with like these kids from University of Chicago, Harvard, MIT, and like the teachers just looked at me and they're like, what the fuck? And how did you end up here? And so I mostly partied the whole time I was in Russia.
Okay, what's partying in Russia like?
Well, so I had really great friends.
Okay.
At my university before I left.
Okay.
They were such great friends that leading up to going to Russia, they thought I should train. I was like, yes. I was hanging out with like wrestlers, grapplers. That was kind of my MO. And they're like, you must train for this, man. Like the vodka there is going to get you. So we would have these parties where like we'd be drinking so many shots of vodka. Like we'd be keeping tally marks with Sharpies on our arms and just silly college stuff.
Yep.
But the first night that I ended up in Russia, I'm a cheap college kid and I didn't grow up with tons of money. So in the US, I'd be buying like the plastic bottles of Pop-Off. Cheap, $8.
Walk down the aisle and clink, clink, clink,
whatever
clunk.
whatever didn't make a glass sound, I picked up.
Yep.
First night in Russia, I go to a liquor store with some friends in that little group. Same thing. I'm going clink, clink, clink. So I find the plastic bottle of what's in Russia, which is like distilled from old potato river water or something. So it was like $4 US. I'm like, this is great.
Score.
So I missed my whole orientation because I was so hungover.
Oh, your first day? Okay. You would have made a great Marine already.
I think I have a lot of good friends who are in that same vein.
Yeah.
So did that, but Russia was great. What I found is, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, that whole lot. I found those groups in Russia.
Oh, okay.
So like Red Devil Sport, where Fyodor Emelianenko was in St. Petersburg. So I would go train there, and I'd wrestle with some of the kids at the university, and those are the friends I hung out with. And it was just like, let's beat up on an American all the time.
Yep.
So I just got my ass kicked.
Which levels you up really quick.
Well, it levels you up really quick. I mean, it wasn't even about that, but it's like I became friends with these guys. Like, we'd go out drinking, we'd get in a fist fight. But unlike the US, like it always ended when it needed to in Russia. Like it never went beyond like whether I got my ass kicked or I did something that was, good and knocked somebody else down. And then you'd go and you'd have drinks afterwards. And it was just like this level of realness with people that I actually really enjoyed about Russians. Like I come from the South. Everybody's, hey, hi, how you doing? Smiling.
Yep.
You get on the street, everybody looks pissed. But when someone stops to ask you, hey, Bam, how are you? It's not like a superficial thing. It's, hey, Bam, how are you? And they expect this conversation of you to unload on them of like, I am actually doing very terribly or very great. And they actually want to hear. And I wasn't used to that.
Okay.
So
Russia is one of those places I want to go to bad.
Yeah.
What are some of the stereotypes that we as Americans look at Russia and it's just completely wrong?
So I'm married to a Russian.
Damn. How was that?
Alessa, if you're listening, I love you.
Don't kill me in my sleep.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's great. Like again, it's that my kids speak Russian here because grandma and granddad are here.
Yep.
My wife's first generation. She moved here when she was 4. So I've actually spent more time in Russia than she has. So it's kind of a little
That's interesting.
Washed. I would say like from a familiar perspective and like having her parents, it's just that genuine nature that I think people don't get, like that they're cold or not caring, but it's kind of the exact opposite because like if you're in that circle, it's like overt care. Like my wife cares for me. My wife's family cares for me. They want to sit and talk and provide and do all these things, even if they don't have the things to provide it with, like financial means. Like they'll give you the shirt off their back. It's a lot like being a Southerner, just without all like the, what is it, gaslighting, they call it, bless your heart kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're just real. They'll say it how it is, and I like that.
Interesting, because, with the whole Soviet and everything that's happened in the Cold War, and Russia from us as America, it's, they're
the Red Scare.
Yeah, they're a threat. They're the biggest threat, and they're so close. It's like, is it?
Yeah.
Now that we see how everything's coming out in the world, that everything's a fucking lie.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to jump into this conversation, because Americans we've been painted this whole entire Russians are the bad, the big red bad, and Putin's after this and he's always trying to do this. It's like, is that how it is? I mean, are the streets as dangerous as they think and all this other bullshit that we've been painted all these pictures our whole life?
Yeah, I mean, this was 2008, 2009, 2010. So it's maybe a different world, but back then it was great. I've never felt unsafe. You'd get in tiffs and stuff, but everybody cared for you. Everybody would be nice to you. The people on the ground were great. So, no complaints there.
No shit.
But same like here. If you come over from Russia and you're in bumfuck South Carolina, the likelihood of you getting mugged or robbed is probably low. You're probably going to be like, hey, buddy, where you at? Let me help you out.
Yeah.
And that's the same kind of feeling you have in like rural Russia.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Did you get to go anywhere cool over there and explore?
Yeah, a bunch of cool little places. I mean, like the whole Eastern Bloc, we'd go and, go outside of Moscow. Here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
There was a bombing. A Chechen group had bombed a train, in 2009, 2010. You'll have to fact check me on that. It was when I was over there, but it was a train line that runs from St. Petersburg to Moscow.
Okay.
I changed my train because I had been hungover.
You were supposed to be on that train?
I was supposed to be on that train, and then I had to change it to the week prior. So I changed my whole trip by a week. Went same cart, same everything. Week later.
No shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's those elements too, because they have the same problems we do. Like, you know, you have a lot of, you know, terrorist problem, domestic problems, but overall, it's great.
Okay. How long were you there?
The first time, close to a year. Then I went back for another 8 months. So close to about 2 years total.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a blessing.
Did you run into anybody over there? Any groups? Because I know Russia has a lot of ties with organizations and stuff.
Yeah, no. I think being the dumbest person there, I think some of the other people that were kind of in my groups, like the Harvard, MITs, like, they're probably the ones they were trying to target. Like, at least this person looks like they might grow up to be something in the U.S. I think they looked at me and they're like, let's just go have a drink with this guy. Like we're going to get nothing. There's no family history of like, I don't have a senator father or anything. So
yeah.
They're like,
he's just a hillbilly. We're good.
Yeah, that's how it felt. So no, I didn't run into anybody that way. Like, I did get to see some of the organized crime elements because, again, I was always in the gym doing something. So my house mom, so I was staying with families, right? Okay. So my house mom, single lady, had a friend, air quote friend, that like ran a gym, like an actual lifting gym. And he's like, you want a membership? I'm like, yeah. So then I'd go there after school, go to the gym. And, he kind of befriended me and it was nice. He's like, hey, let's go out one night. And this guy was in his 40s and I'm in my early 20s. And I remember walking out of the gym, just in like normal clothes, not suave or anything. And up pulls a Bentley and a G-Wagon. And I had no idea what this guy did. I thought he just owned a gym, like this little dinky dark gym. And Bentley and G-Wagon, and he opens up the door for the Bentley, and I get in the Bentley. I'm like, what is happening here? And we go to this club, and this is an interesting story. So we go to this club, and it's 8 p.m., so it's real early. But you start having drinks and all this different stuff, and then all these girls start coming in, and, they're kind of like setting us up before like going to like a strip club and all these different elements that I wasn't used to as like a 21-year-old South Carolinian boy. And, then all these big Chechen dudes like, start walking in, they start going off and having these side conversations. I'm like, what is happening here? And then of course, at one point he's like, we got to go. And that was the end of the night. It was nothing crazy, but it was just like those elements, like this guy was clearly in the mafia or the mob or whatever you'd want to call it. But like that was my one taste of that in Russia, and that was enough for me to be like, I don't know if I want to hop back in the Bentley again. But
I'd have been riding shotgun.
Yeah. Well, I'd be
like, how do I get it tied into this? And those 21, 22, 100% would have been asking questions.
I was smart enough not to ask the questions because he didn't say jack to me after that, as far as like what was happening or anything like that. So
I've had some situations like that. There was one in Mexico where I got
Tijuana.
No, we were deep in Mexico, and dude, buddy down there with the one, and dude, we rolled. Yeah, I won't even get into that on the podcast. Actually, that was an offline one, but I was like, bro, how do I get tied into this? Like,
well, you do get bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as a young guy because it's like I think we were talking. Like, I didn't grow up with money.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, like you're getting wined and dined, and you're kind of looking around like, this seems like a interesting lifestyle.
I can get used to this.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I'm going to live for, but this
bottle service, the Bentley, the G-Wagon, like we were blowing through stop signs in St. Petersburg, like past the cops, no one doing anything.
Yeah.
I feel a little powerful.
I want in.
Yeah.
No shit. So almost 2 years in Russia.
Yeah.
That was probably quite the experience.
It was. And then came back stateside, finished up school. That was talk about a dichotomy. Doing that, coming back, and I had like a semester left and going back to the general education bullshit of the American education system. Like I go from that to coming back and I had to fill out a few classes to graduate. I think I had to take the history of death.
What?
Yeah. It was like just filler classes that you take at college and world rhythms.
What's world rhythms?
Well, it's like a class where you learn about specialty dances from different cultures around the world because that's going to be what sets you apart when you graduate college.
I just don't know how people look at this and they're like, yep. I'm glad I'm paying for this.
Well, I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I'm paying for this because it was all racking up on my debt and it wasn't going towards anything I wanted to do, which was still a lawyer at that time, I thought. And, you know, it was so silly.
Okay, so after the whole college experience, when did you get the idea you wanted to start working for the dark side here and become a spook?
Well, it was overseas.
Okay.
So part of when I went over the second time was with Department of State.
Yeah.
So I got to meet a few folks. And
how'd you get tied in with the Department of State?
So it was a scholarship program.
Oh, okay.
So they had something called the Critical Languages Scholar, and talk about like the FU bone in my body. I had applied for it randomly. And at my school, College of Charleston, they have like a whole gifted program kind of thing, and didn't get in there. But they reserve people to help kids write essays for like Rhodes scholarships as critical languages scholarships. So me in my dorm room found out about this. I'm like, well, I can't afford to send myself to Russia. So like, let me find ways to get paid to do it. So I applied for this, and ultimately I'm really annoying when I want something. I was an alternate. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to email. Like, I know one of these rich kids is going to be like, sorry, I got to be in Milan or something for the summer.
Yeah.
So I'm going to email this lady every day and be like, I want the spot when it opens. I want the spot when it opens. Did that for like 34 days.
No shit.
And then on the 35th day, she's like, you got the spot. I'm like, cool. So that's what got me over there in the first place. But at my college, they found out about it. And they're like, how did you get in here? They're like, we help you write the essays. I'm like, well, I didn't want your help. I just did it on my own. And so they took my essays from me and like tried to, because no one had ever gotten in from our college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was the first person from our college to get into that program without their help. So they were all a little butthurt about that.
No shit. That's what opened that door up then.
That's what opened the door. So then I went over there, and then outside of that, you come back, you start to have conversations. So I did apply. So I did like out of school, the whole thing where you go to the hotel room. I don't know how much you know about like the alphabet soup, like process of like trying to apply, but you apply
for the CIA.
For the CIA.
Walk us through it, because I mean, I have buddies that are in the system, but yeah, people listening,
for people who failed like me. So you go through the system, you apply. You go through like the telephone interviews, you do all the stuff. They do kind of like an initial background check, but then I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina, where I had to go to a hotel. You go in a hotel, you're with a bunch of other people, like ex-Marines, other people, and you're like, you all know why you're there.
But nobody's saying anything.
No one's saying anything.
You're all sizing each other up.
And then you go into a little conference room they have there, and they do like a little speech, and they have like a couple blue badgers up there talking about the lifestyle and how like there's not many of you are going to make it through, blah, blah, blah. And then you go off into like a hotel room and you do like these individual interviews. So I was with a guy who had been in Russia for a long time, and I can't remember the prompt, but it was like how would you handle this situation conversation? And it was like, so this guy just hands you plutonium. That's an exaggeration, but it was something ridiculous like that. And they were like assessing you on how you'd handle it. And I'm pretty sure I answered terribly, because after that whole situation, I'm like, well, just put it in my pocket and run. I don't know. Just like brutally honest, but then that's the process. And then you do another oral round after that. And then ultimately, I never got an offer.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, never got an offer. But then I was like, I still want to go overseas. So then I just started finding jobs overseas and emptied my little bit of a piggy bank that I had after college. And
what type of jobs?
Well, first and foremost, I went over and just did, I started in Kyrgyzstan.
What's Kyrgyzstan like?
Cool.
Yeah?
I mean, I want to go back and hunt. I wish I had been a hunter then.
Yeah.
Because like, you're in this, it looks like Idaho.
Yeah.
Like hindsight being what it is, these beautiful big mountains. But I was working for the Eurasia Foundation.
What is that?
Who the fuck knows? Like, I don't think I don't even know what they do now, but I knew that we worked on policy and I had to translate some stuff.
I love these type of jobs, because those people are just scared. You don't even know what you're doing, but you're just like, I'm getting paid, so whatever.
Yeah. So I was, interning there and did that for a few months and just kind of pounced around Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, and that was really cool. And then
anything happened in Kyrgyzstan?
I did. I got beat up.
Okay, let's hear this.
Yeah. So in Kyrgyzstan, it's like attracted to it. So there's a main road that goes in Kyrgyzstan. It's like Ulitsa Manasa. It's like the main thoroughfare.
Okay.
This was like a few years after one of their color revolutions where, people stood up against the government. And when I went over there, one of the guys at the Eurasia Foundation had left for a couple months. So he's like, you can house sit for me. So I'm house sitting for this guy and his 2 Russian blue cats. And I looked very Russian, I guess, to people. And like in some of those areas, not a lot of people really liked the Russians that were there. And I was walking home from work one day with like my little leather loafers. And I just noticed a couple guys around me. You get that eerie feeling like you're kind of getting followed.
Yeah.
And, I made a very big mistake in that I knew the street and I noticed the 2 guys behind me. And I think they'd been casing me, whatever. In the next block, the sidewalk kind of cut in and there was like a row of trees that were blocking it from like the main road and the cars. And there was like an abandoned apartment building. And, Spidey senses were going off, but I didn't do anything about it. I'm like, this is not going to happen. This isn't going to happen to me. And then so I keep walking. I'm kind of like getting nervous. And then like 2 guys come the other way. And then a guy comes out from the building. And I was like, fuck. And then just jumped, wailed on, took off.
Really?
Fuck yeah. Just like 5-on-1. Like,
No
there was
shit.
like, I wrestled. I did all, nothing. You just get just pummeled. And then like they're cussing at me in either Kyrgyz or Russian, but I'm like not really comprehending this. And then I have my passport on me and they pull out my passport and they realize I'm American. They're like, oh shit. At least that's what I kind of figured. So they ripped my shoes off. So I still have like these scars on the back of my feet, like where they just ripped my shoes off, took a big chunk of skin, took like my pea coat, and then left.
No money? Just did they leave
Well, I
your
didn't have any
passport?
money. No, they left my passport. I think they also saw like, oh, this guy's broke.
They took your shoes?
Yeah, took my shoes. And it was like snowing. So like I had to walk back with my little bloody feet. It was only like 2 blocks to my apartment. But yeah, walked back and then, ended up going to the hospital, getting checked in for everything. And then I was like, I'm done with Kyrgyzstan for now. So went to the next one.
Shit, what was the next one?
Georgia, Republic of Georgia.
Republic of Georgia. What's that like?
Also awesome.
Yeah.
Like great food, kindest people. Don't go in the wrestling rooms if you're an American because you'll get the crap beat out of you too there.
For sure.
But just amazing people, amazing beauty. They're like, that's why parts of Lord of the Rings were shot there.
Yeah.
Like just huge mountains. Again, very Idaho-esque, but greener. So went there
they
to
don't get the dry seasons like we do.
no, you get all that stuff off the Black Sea, so it stays
Yep.
pretty like green pretty much all year round. And I went there to teach English. So I would just like, I was trying to find anything that would pay me to be overseas. Because in my mind, Zach's mind, there's not a lot going on up there, like a little pinball. But I was like, if I can just keep jobs overseas, maybe I can reapply to the CIA later. Maybe it's like experience being over there, picking up more cultural nuances, doing those things. So that was my goal. I was like, I'm just going to do this for a few years and then see what happens. So go there to teach English, teaching English at the police academy in downtown Tbilisi. And it was great. I did that for like 6 or 7 months. And
So you got to work with the police there?
yeah,
Did anything pop off? Did you get to do anything cool with them?
not a thing.
Really? Just teach?
Just teach.
You're just the nerdy American teaching English, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they like. I mean, I went out with them a few times, like once they got to know you. There's a big
I
Marine
wasn't
base
calling
there.
you a nerd, by the way. They're just how they look at English teachers.
Well, I am.
Sorry if I categorize you
It's
in that.
okay. It's
nerd.
just my feelings and emotions.
My bad.
Not a big deal. I'll just
my
cry
intrusive-
myself to
My
sleep tonight.
intrusive
But
thoughts were coming out on that one. So
it's fucking nerd.
I'm not getting asked to teach English. So.
Well, I don't think anybody learned any English while I was there either, for what it's worth. We mostly said, but it was cool because I worked. I don't know how much you know about Russian history.
Not a lot.
Okay, so Stalin is Georgian.
Yep.
So he was in Georgia, and his number one henchman, Beria, he was like the real evil guy who like preyed on kids. A lot of the killing that happened under Stalin's footprint was by Beria.
Got it.
So the desk I had in Georgia, in the police academy, downtown Tbilisi, was where Beria sat.
Oh, okay.
And like you could just feel the evil emanating from it. So it was just like a cool historic
History,
spot
though.
to be. Yeah, it was cool. But then, again, I was living with families. I have a big fuck you bone. And I just like, I don't want to live with anybody. I want to get my own place. So I got a apartment in a town over. So it was like an hour bus ride for me to get to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into this town called Rustavi, Georgia. So I had this little downstairs apartment to myself, which was great. It was fully stocked. I got it from another lady who was gone for a couple months. And I was like, this is awesome. I got my own place. We're good. Started dating a chick. Beautiful young lady, half Armenian, half Georgian.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's like the Kardashian kind of thing going on. It was great. Lovely woman. Started dating her. All the while I'm working with the police, doing these different things. And I had also already been eyeing what my next thing was. So like I've just this history of me just being like, hey, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? I was going to go work for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe in Austria. Again, I thought that would be better than teaching English. It's kind of more, I was going to work for this anti-terrorism organization doing cyber policy.
Okay.
So I had applied and I'd been waiting on that this whole time. So I'm dating this lady and I find out, this is probably 6 months into me teaching English there, that I got the job in Austria and that I would be going to Austria to do this job in a couple months. So I was very excited about it. So this girl I was dating was over at the time when I got the email that said, hey, you're going to go to Austria. I was like, yes. And dumb, young, 22-year-old.
She was not about that life, huh?
Well, she was. I told her that I got it. And she goes, when do we leave?
That's what I mean. She was not about you leaving. Now it's a package deal. Yeah. She's got a full ride. Yeah.
And I'm 22. And then I don't know if you can guess what my reaction was. It was more of a laugh.
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's really funny. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Like, no.
How'd she take that?
Not well. So I had not.
Can I ask you for a quick, how did you meet this girl?
I want to say MySpace.
Oh, no shit.
It was one of those things, like, early internet, like while I was over there, but it was an internet thing. So we had met. So I didn't know a lot about her, but like we've been dating for, I think a couple weeks at this point. Like this wasn't like an extended period.
Oh, so you're just don't even know each other yet.
Yeah.
And she's already thinking she's coming with you.
Yes.
Okay. Huge red flag.
Yes.
Okay.
Second red flag, after my laugh, which was, the most moronic thing as a young 22, 23-year-old I could ever do, starts breaking plates. On par, right? Just breaking plates. And like, that was my thing. I was like, I'm done. I'm 22 years old. I don't need this. Leave. So she left. Again, young, dumb guy. Get a call a week later. She's like, I'm really sorry for the way I acted. I'm really happy for you and what you've got going on. Can I come make you dinner? So I was like, yeah. Like in my head, I'm like, yeah, finally. Like she realizes how obnoxious that was. So she gives me a call and we come over and we go to there's a little bazaar. So we actually go and get a chicken. They killed the chicken. They feather the chicken for us. We have this fresh chicken and eggplant. To this day, I can't eat eggplant.
Okay.
But it's called baklajan in Russian. So we had like this baklajan chicken thing. So we come back and she prepares this whole meal for me in a glass dish.
Okay.
And this is a Friday night.
I like where this is going.
Yeah.
She's going to tear your world up.
Friday night, she makes this dish. It's like 9 p.m. I'm still thinking like, man, it's great. I'm glad she's apologized. This is great. She gets a call at like 9 p.m. as this chicken dish is going in the oven. And mind you, I speak Russian okay. I can kind of understand some Georgian, but I don't understand a lick of Armenian. So she gets a call, Armenian, kind of heated sounding conversation. She's like, I'm sorry, I got to go. That's the last I've ever seen of that woman in my entire life.
What did she do?
So she tells me as she leaves, she's like, hey, take that chicken dish out in a little bit. Enjoy it. It's a great meal. I'll talk to you soon.
Did you guys hook up one last time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I had to do a little bit of yes.
I feel like that's kind of important.
It is important.
Okay.
So it was at least it was a decent send off, I guess.
Okay.
She left, pulled the chicken out. It looks good. Great meal. So I eat a lot of it. I don't know how much, like maybe 2 chicken breasts, whatever was in there, some of the eggplant. I'm like, this is good. That's the last thing that I remember before waking up in an ambulance.
She poisoned you?
Yes. So
you woke up in an ambulance?
Well, getting walked to an ambulance. So that was, actually this might've been Saturday night. Sorry, not Friday night. It was a Saturday night. And what I recollect now is I remember like just getting violently sick. Like I went to bed. Like it wasn't like an immediate kind of thing. I went to bed and then I was just going back and forth from my bed to my bathroom, just out both ends.
How long did it take for this to set in?
It had to, I don't know the hour, but it was like a couple hours probably.
Okay. You started feeling it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were feeling first?
No, because I was asleep. Because I ate it and I just went to bed. Like I didn't go out or anything. Just went to bed. So I don't know when it hit in the middle of the night, but I remember like waking up like that queasy feeling. Like I'm like, this is bad. And then I just both ends for a long time. And then I was so weak that went on for hours. And then I was too weak to kind of move. And then what happened is I didn't show up for work at the police station on Monday. And I'm like a very disciplined, punctual guy. Like I don't miss work.
Yeah.
So thank God, like people there that had known me at least for 6 months now were like, this is not normal. So 2 police officers from Tbilisi came out to Rustavi and found me in my apartment. And thankfully I had not locked my door that night, nothing. So they just kind of walked in and they're like, oh shit. So they called the ambulance, and this is a village in Georgia.
Okay.
So this is like one of those old VW looking vans, you know, like with a med sister, like a little nurse in the back. And I shit you not, it was like out of a movie where they kind of helped get me to the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of laying back there. I'm a little lucid. And I shit you not, the driver, like there's no window between the driver and the back where I'm laying in this little bed with this like nurse, like their little hat looking at me.
Down the old school ambulance.
He looks at me, looks at the road, looks at me, pulls a pack of cigarettes out of his jacket pocket, lights a cigarette, then hits the lights and just floors it.
As you're dying in the back of
I'm
his
just like dying in the back. And we didn't get long to get to the hospital, but like this dank hospital with like the wallpaper peeling off, you know, just getting IVs and then like getting all the blood tests. And I was in there for like 8 days.
What?
Yeah.
What'd the blood test come back as?
I mean, it was like translated in Russian. It was like some form of like a rat poison or something to that effect, like that kind of nice and looking.
This chick gave you rat poison and dipped?
Yeah. So never heard from her again.
Bro.
Yeah.
Did you know? I mean, did you think it was just food poisoning at first?
Yeah. I innocent, you know, like I never faced anything like this. Like, you know, I'd seen little bits, but like I grew up in a good family. Like I've always seen like, you know, do good to other people. And like, I also didn't think that my reaction to what apparently led to this was a killable offense. But
bro, that's sketch.
Very sketch.
So you only knew this chick for a few weeks.
Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks.
And she thought she had the
green
ride.
yeah.
She thought she had the green light to travel with this American. Then you guys are she's got a full ride with you. And then when you denied that, she poisoned you.
Yeah.
With rat poison.
Whatever it was. But yeah.
Holy shit. How long did it take for you to recover?
I mean, in the hospital for like 8 days, and I didn't feel right for months. So, you know, I came back to the States for a little while, stayed with my parents before I went to Austria, which is, you know, what I'd originally done. So I think I actually delayed my start date there because I just wasn't feeling good.
Damn, dude. That's sketch.
Yeah.
All over you laughing at her.
I don't even know if it was the laughing. I just like the not going, but like
the denied part, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but I think, you know, also I'd probably talked up, as most young men do, like my future. Like, you know, I'm the guy.
For sure.
Not knowing that I'm like still like I got negative dollars in my bank account. You know, like even if I wanted to, I didn't have money to give her a plane ticket, you know? Yeah.
Damn, bro. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Dude, was that an aha moment for you? Like, oh, okay, there's crazy in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
for sure.
That's a come to Jesus moment right there.
It really was, because I wasn't expecting it. You know, like I've been beat up before, I've run into stuff, but never to the degree of like, oh, someone wants to erase me off the planet.
It's that easy.
It is that easy. And, or maybe you give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just sprinkled enough in there to teach me a lesson. You know, who knows? But it's hard to imagine that was the mentality.
So is it more crazy to try to poison somebody, or is it crazier to just put enough in there to teach them a lesson? I mean,
I don't,
is there a, you know, like,
yeah, we'll leave that to the philosophers that graduated with their philosophy degrees from college.
We'll leave that to TikTok experts because they like to let me know everything. So, damn, bro, that's scary.
Yeah, it was. It was a wake up call, but then things kind of progressed from there. No problems. I went on to work in Austria, and that was fun for another, like, it was a short period. It was also like kind of an internship. I still had that mentality of, wanting to be a spook eventually.
What was in Austria? What
that was
that like?
Really cool. Also just really full of history. Like the place, the OSCE, that building, it's a big non-governmental organization. So it's one of those things where a lot of people who go to college getting like political science degrees go.
Okay.
Because it's like 50 member states. So like Russia's a member state, the US is a member state. So I worked in the anti-terrorism unit, which was all like, I looked at like lone wolf terrorism. I wrote speeches for some people, but the process was every year they would do like 4 documents where all of these 50 member states, including Russia, the US, would get together and say, we promise not to do X, Y, Z to each other. And you'd spend 365 days putting together like a 40-page memorandum where 365 days you're meeting and arguing over commas and periods.
Oh, God.
So like it's kind of funny. You'd be in these rooms with all these people, and then like the Russian delegation would stand up and be like, I don't agree with sentence 3 and paragraph 48, whatever the case may be. And this was all like cyber policy. So it'd be like, we want to have like good communications between all of our countries, but you had to have full unanimity or unanimous. See, I'm not that smart. Yeah, unanimous like agreement on the whole document for it to be ratified. So
which will never happen.
Well, it's funny. You'd watch these regional conflicts like boil up. So like you'd be on path to get this thing approved, and then Armenia and Azerbaijan would have a regional conflict, and then they'd get instruction to whoever their delegation is to argue over something to not get this thing ratified. Or Russia and US. Like, it was always something.
For sure.
That was more of an eye-opener for me of like this kind of diplomacy is like pointless.
It's all theatrics.
Yeah. There's absolutely nothing ever got done.
No.
But it was a really cool building that we got to work in. It had like 4 stories underground, and you could walk the halls that Hitler walked to do his commencement speech.
No shit.
Yeah. And it had the same carpet from back then. They haven't changed anything. And again, you could just like walk the halls and kind of feel that history, evil, whatever. And you're like, wow, like this is a wild place.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Damn, that's cool, man. Just to be able to experience and be in and around that history and cultures. And that's a pretty cool life that you were able to live by like what, 22, 23 years old? You've experienced all this?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was good. Like, again, it was like
what
not
an experience.
Well, it's not what I thought. Like, this was my own manufactured thing.
Absolutely.
Because like I was like, oh, I'll be a spy. I'll do this. I'll be a CIA agent.
I'm gonna get the credentials and have life experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the life experience.
I got the life experience, but it never manifested in that way. So then I came back stateside, met my first wife, because my parents lived in near Clemson, South Carolina.
Okay. So
came back and met her. She was doing a PhD in mathematics at the time in Clemson University. We met at a CrossFit gym and kind of hit it off. And at that point, I was like, my political science degree is useless. I'm not going to be a spy. I'm not Archer.
Right.
This isn't going to happen. So I'm like, well, do I go back to school? It goes back to that thing of like, well, I can't really find a job. Do I go back to school? I was like, maybe I'll get a business degree that's actually useful. MBAs in the US were all $100K, $200K, just like entry fee. I'm like, I can't afford that. I can't do any more debt. So I was like, well, what can I do? So I was like, well, let's see where it's free in the world. So like literally Googling, I'm like, where can I get an MBA for free?
No shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for you for at least looking.
Yeah. I was
Where
like,
was that?
Finland.
Not a horrible place.
No, again, I have proven that my decision-making criteria is not always sound, but it was Finland or Dammam, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi's pretty dope.
Well, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, kind of just over the causeway from Bahrain. It's the Harvard of the Middle East. So just have you know. I'm
just throwing that out there.
just throwing that out there.
Just throwing that out there that I got to go for free.
So I got into both. And then I was like, I've already done the cold. Because I already been up near Finland when I was living in St. Petersburg. I'm like, let's try something new. Let's go to the desert. And I think I still had something in my head, like something might work out in the future. Like, let's learn a little bit of Arabic. Let's kind of get in the sandbox a little bit. Mm-hmm. And went over there to start my MBA.
Okay, so what's that like? Just packing up everything here in the States and just going straight to the Middle East and Saudi Arabia for school.
It's like, it was school for scoundrels. It was hilarious. So
School for scoundrels?
and I'll tell you why. Like, I got on a plane. They're like, all right, like, it was the wildest thing. So like, I'm working with the Saudi government. They're like, you're the first American we've ever admitted to this program.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So their higher education piece, because the way like if you're a Saudi citizen, you know, you're always some descendant of a prince or anything, but they cover all of your education. So that's why you have a lot of Saudis in U.S. universities and Oxford, all these different places. So you do your undergraduate degree in Saudi Arabia, and then they will pay for you to go anywhere in the world to get your graduate degree.
How nice is that?
I mean, that makes the bar less. Like, you're not getting into debt, but you can go and do it. So what would happen is these Saudis do their undergrad, go abroad, but then they'd come back and teach.
Yeah.
Like some people. So like the actual professors at the Saudi university were actually really good. They were all like MIT, Harvard trained professors. So like no complaints on the education level, but I was the first American admitted. So like I'm back home, I'm having to get like all this paperwork. I got to get an HIV test. They got to look at all my tattoos. They got to do all this stuff abroad. And then I just send it into the ether and I'm not hearing anything. And then they're like, last minute, they're like, you're accepted. Here's a plane ticket. And the next thing I know,
they bought your plane ticket too?
They paid everything.
Damn, that's badass. Okay, so you get this free
They covered
ride.
housing, food, plane tickets. They covered a plane ticket on to wherever I wanted to go, like during my fall break. So when I was there, like, you know, I'd seen nothing but ankles and eyes for like 6 months. So
yeah, for real.
I went up to Georgia because I was used to it and saw some old friends there and flew back. Covered everything.
Damn.
Yeah. It was a really good deal. Like,
dude, Saudi Arabia's got their shit together, man. They don't play over there.
No, it was great.
Everything is it just makes sense. I have some buddies that were over there. Actually, one of our guests that was on Clyde, he was at the embassy over there, and we dove into some stories. We could have done a whole entire 4 hours just on Saudi Arabia embassies and the parties and shit. Well,
that was the nice thing. So the wild thing was the school, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, Harvard of the Middle East, butts up to Saudi Aramco.
Okay.
So, and the consulate, the Eastern consulate, U.S. consulate, is actually on the school grounds.
Okay.
So, you know, I got to meet a few of the folks there and some of the Marines that were, you know, stationed out there.
What year was this?
2012.
I wonder I'll have to ask Clyde too when he was there.
Yeah. But anyways, I was the first student there.
Okay, so what's it like being the first American student to go to this college in Saudi Arabia?
Well, again, I show up. I'm on a flight from Jordan to Dammam that lands at like 3 a.m. And they're like, there'll be a car there. I'm like, it's weird. And so like there was a car there ready for me. And I've got like my 2 duffel bags, you know, and we end up driving to there and, you know, the campus is empty. This is like right before the school year starts. And it's like 3 a.m. and they're like doing some paperwork. They're like, follow us. Habibi, come on, Habibi, follow us. And they take me into the dorms and they put me in this room with just a random Egyptian guy. They're like, they turn the lights on while he's sleeping. Like they don't care about him.
Yeah.
Like, thump, here it is. And it's like a cement bed with a little tiny roll and a desk and like the communal showers and everything. And that was it. That was my home for the next, you know, what I thought was going to be 2 years and ended up only being 8 months.
Why?
Arab Spring. We can get into that in a little bit, but so I go there and like, I literally like turned the light off. I was exhausted. I never spent a lot of time in an Islamic country, you know, just kind of passing through Turkey and other places. And, you know, my eyes shut like 4 a.m. I'm like, I'm tired. And then right outside the windows, and I actually like the call to prayer. It's very like,
depending who's doing the call to prayer,
okay,
you get some child that's learning.
But here's the thing, university.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They're all student imams learning.
It's actually, obviously being a Christian, I've spent a lot of time over in the Middle East. Some of them it's beautiful to listen to. When you have a guy that can hit some peaks and stuff, you're like, oh damn, okay. Like,
yeah, but when you have the kid whose voice is cracking,
that's all
mid-call
in the villages and the towns that we were in.
Yeah.
That's all it ever was. You'd be like, it was just, I swear they would do it just to torture us.
Maybe,
it was a psychological
real psyop.
Yeah,
but that's what I felt like. So like my eyes pop open an hour after being there. I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? You know, and and it was great. I met a lot of great people, but the interesting thing was going back to none of the Saudis were there for graduate school. So I was in the graduate school. So I was getting a master's in business administration.
And they're all here.
Yeah, they're all here.
So who are you with?
Pakistanis, Indians, Yemeni. Like, that's why I was kind of joking about the school for scoundrels. Like, it was because they would also subsidize their travel. So they have, like, with their other Islamic neighbors, like, essentially contracts, like, their top of the top can come over. So it was me. And, like, I met some of the Saudis who were in undergrad, and they were all great. And there were a few Saudis that were still doing their MBA there, but not many. And most of the ones that were doing it there, had businesses. So they were, just doing it at night for, furthering their education.
How are the Pakistanis and stuff treating you?
It was an interesting time.
Okay.
Everybody treated me so nicely. And I have like a big cross tattoo on the back of my leg.
Okay.
And I was like working out every day. Like I was like one of the only ones in the gym. Ironically, there was a black belt in jiu-jitsu there, was a teacher. And this was back in the kingdom when they had banned jiu-jitsu. So I had a gi in my bag, ironically. And we were like, with this guy, we were like doing some underground jiu-jitsu, but like they'd cracked down on it too, I guess.
So weird.
There was a reason behind it. I don't remember what year. Someone on TikTok, they can fact check it. But like there had been a situation where a descendant of one of the princes of one of the provinces had gotten in a fight with somebody who had done jujitsu or trained jujitsu and either got choked out or, I don't know if was killed.
End it all. I got my ass whooped. I don't like it.
Yeah, that was it.
Instead of him learning it, that's how.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore in the kingdom. Like, obviously they're bringing in tons of sports, MMA. Sure. So, but at the time that was it. So we were kind of doing all this underground stuff, which was pretty fun. But, everyone was really nice to me. I had a lot of great friends. Until the Arab Spring.
Okay, which was what?
It was like 2012. That was when like the Gaddafi, everything else kind of just blew up in the Middle East. Like Libya, all these other countries were just entering into some form of a turmoil. And a lot of people were expecting it was like, spook-led stuff that had triggered. Always. And I'm the lone American. So I stand out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. And it went from, I remember it, like from the time the stuff in Libya happened, like overnight, people just stopped talking to me. Not everybody, but a lot of people just stopped talking to me. I like woke up the next day, like normally walking around this little campus, like high-fiving, doing the normal thing, asking me how my day was. Nothing.
Just like that.
Just like that. And then the death threats started coming.
From who? I
don't know. It was all anonymous. So like I would literally walk into classroom multiple times. I have a picture of it somewhere that I took with a camera or my iPhone or whatever it was at the time. But I'd walk into classroom and be like, death to all Americans, death to all Jews.
Damn, they categorized you with the Jews?
I got bucketed in there, baby.
Man.
I know.
Anybody with that?
I know. I guess that's...
We can say that here on the Wild Chaos podcast because we're real.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem.
I would not want to get categorized in that. I'd be like, yes, you can call me a Westerner all day.
You can call everything. But I'm like...
Don't put me in old Uncle BB's category.
Well, that was the kind of the joke. I'd be like, yeah, American. But like, I'd go up with like the eraser. I'd be like, let's just do death to all Americans. All right? Like, we'll stick with that one. You'll get me. I'm still going down, but...
Yeah. Oh, so once the climate changed, what were you doing?
So this was one semester in. So this was like 8 months in. And I was like, they pay for all these plane tickets, right? So I was like, I had the chance for the quote winter break to go back home. And I started talking to the consulate general there because it was on the campus. And they're like, the climate's really hot. And they're like, can't guarantee your safety. You're getting all these threats. Like their suggestion was go back home.
Damn, that sucks.
It sucks. And like, hindsight's always 20/20. Like maybe I should have stuck it out a little bit more. But my girlfriend at the time, the one that I met at the gym, who would become my first wife, was back home. She's like, just come home. And I was like, all right, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
So ended up packing my bags after that. Like, nothing big happened with that. There was no like action or anything. It's just death threats piled up. And I was like, it's time to go home. So
damn, that sucks.
It does. But it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Learned a little Arabic, learned how to not do a call to prayer. A lot of good stuff. And then went back home. And then I think I don't know if it's because I hadn't seen anybody not in a burqa for like 7 months, but me and my girlfriend got married within like a couple weeks of me being home. Another kind of Marine type of thing.
For
There's a lot of
sure.
parallels.
You're right on par. She wasn't a stripper prior to that, was she?
No, PhD, that's the Delta. She was a PhD in mathematics.
Okay.
So
yeah, there's not a lot of Marines marrying any women.
there's levels to it, right?
There's definitely levels to it. Okay, so you come back. I mean, then what? So now your life is like, oh shit, I got to figure something else out.
I got to figure something out. I realize I'm not going to be a spook. You know, I don't have
Is it finally setting in that you're not going to be a spy and you need to start figuring life out, or what? How old are you by this point? 23, 24?
23.
Okay.
I don't think it's settled in that I wasn't going to be a spook until like last year.
Finally gave up on it?
I finally gave up on it.
Okay, at least you're honest with yourself. I respect that.
It was hard. You know, like that was one of those things like you're like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it just never comes to fruition. Like I think a lot of my friends still think like, oh yeah, you were actually a spook. And I had to be like, no, I really wasn't.
Because you're all these different countries.
I still go, yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, no, I'm trying to be one. And then all your friends are like, bro, you're totally one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, why are you over there during the Arab Spring? What were you doing? Did you? Like, no, I'm a dumbass and got there at the perfect or right or wrong time, however you want to look at it. But yeah, it settled in. So then my ex-wife and we got married. She was done with her PhD. She started working for an electrical utility company. So she was kind of my sugar mama because I couldn't find a job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, well, I've got no skills, have a partial MBA, a political science degree, a bunch of random ass internships overseas that don't like have a coherent story. So I'm like,
here we are.
Yeah, I guess this is my life now.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm scrambling to do anything. And thankfully I had two close friends and we started a company together.
Doing what?
This is where I first dipped my toes into the world of technology.
Okay. So
one guy was a developer and we're like, we all like coffee shops, you know, this was like 2012, you know, we'd all go there and like hang out and just think about ideas. And, you know, we always had those punch cards. So we were like, man, we could build an app around that. This was like the big time when like everybody had an app for everything or was starting to.
Yeah.
And we're like, we can build on this. We got $1 billion idea here. So we had $1 billion idea to have an app where you could essentially go to a coffee shop if they were a participant, scan a QR code, and instead of prolonging that discount till your 10th coffee or whatever, we'll just give you a little bit off of your current coffee. That would eventually add up to that. That was our $1 billion idea. Okay. That $1 billion idea turned into about a negative $18,000 idea.
Apps aren't cheap.
At that time too. Yeah. Pretty quickly. So that was just another like kick in the dick as far as like, you know, what am I doing? Like, how are we going to make this happen? And meanwhile, my ex-wife, very smart woman, was just killing at her job. And, you know, I still wanted to be a spook. I'm like, have you ever thought about being in the FBI? Like I planted that seed because she and I had done jujitsu. She was very good at jujitsu too. And she's like, you know, I've always wanted to do like criminology or something like that. That was her like passion. She's like, she felt she got shoehorned into the college trap too. And she was good at math. So she did a bachelor's in math, then a PhD in math, and she just stayed on the train. She wasn't happy with it. So I was like, you should apply. So she goes through the FBI pipeline and kills it.
No shit.
Yeah, kills it.
Damn,
so
shit on all your dreams, huh?
It was, honestly, it was a hard pill to swallow. I'm like, I was happy as a husband. I was like, good on you.
Well, I mean, you've been chasing that dream for 5-6 years at that point, maybe a little longer. And then she just walks right in.
Well, I would be, that. And then I'd be a total liar if I said, fast forward a few years, she's going to go on an op. So she ended up working violent crimes against children.
Oh, damn. That's a rough one.
And that probably led to a lot of the, you know, why we're not married together. Okay. But like that's the only role in the FBI where they have a mandatory shrink every year.
I would like to talk. That's when I would love to get somebody if I don't know how you guys are, but
yeah,
I want to have a conversation with somebody.
She's no longer with the FBI, so I can always reach out.
Would you?
Yeah.
I don't think people have any idea of what's going on out there. We're such a just closed, blindfold on.
Well, that's one reason I was like glad we didn't have kids. And we can get into that too, for sure, because it's everywhere. It's so absurdly pervasive. It will make you sick.
And what's even more terrifying is we want to look at, oh, that guy's a predator. Look out for these predators. The majority of it's coming from within their own homes.
Well, it is. But there is one thing, and this is what my ex-wife told me, that it's like these are not mutually exclusive. But it's kind of funny. And this is a universal truth. So everybody listening, if you have this, sorry, you're a predator. You can own a samurai sword.
Okay.
and you can have a Pokemon poster,
Okay.
but you can never have both, or you're a pedophile.
Yeah.
It's just like a common thing, apparently. Like, like in those circles.
Anime. The whole anime, Pokemon, Disney adults.
Yeah.
All that shit, dude. That's a huge red flag. We talk about it in this house. I have buddies that are still in, so I can't get them on yet.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. You're like, dude, all of these guys are in the anime, they're in the Disney shit. There's common red flags in pedophiles and these dudes that are in the child pornography. Yep. I think a lot of it just starts, and then it obviously with pornography, that's one of the most gateway things I think we could find ourselves into, which starts with just a little of this. And it's one of those dopamines that you're constantly,
you gotta get a little bit heavier hit.
Get bored with it. You need a better hit, a darker hit before you know it. You're down these paths.
Yeah.
But that's so funny you say that. God, dude, at least it's you saying it, not me, because I get crucified for everything. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's true, dude. That's one of the, didn't we talk about this for a while? It was a topic in our house. You ever date a dude that's into anime? Instant red flag. Cut it off.
Yep.
And I've said it before, like in stories and shit. And I've been in anime my whole life. I'm like, meek.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a grown ass man and you're trading Pokemon cards. You are watching. Anybody that goes to Comic-Con and dresses up, you're into that shit. I'm sorry that I'm categorizing everybody because I usually get canceled over those types of clips. But yeah, I don't even care, dude. It's one of those things. Like,
well, as a parent now, like my filter's off. Like, screw it. Like, like that's the truth. Like, I saw it firsthand for 6 years, like, secondhand. I wasn't in these ops.
Yeah.
It was my ex-wife, but like,
you're hearing it.
We talked. I'd go to these dinner parties with these other agents. Like, you see it. And we were in Louisiana at the time, and knock on Louisiana, but like, there's
a cesspool for it.
Well, it's poverty. Like, it accentuates it. Like, there's a lot of bad that goes on around that area and nationwide. But again, that prevalence, but to your original point where you're like, did that hurt a little bit when she got in? I do remember one morning waking up before she was going on an op. I was about to get on a Zoom call I was working in tech at the time, and I was literally loading like 10 mils into her MP5. I was just like loading magazines for her. And it was like literally like, okay, here you go, honey. I'm like handing off her MP5, her sack lunch that I made in the morning. Yeah. So it hurt a little bit.
It's funny hearing it from the the roles are reversed. Like it's always been like, later, babe, I'll see you when I get back. And you're all like, be safe.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good op.
I mean, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. But
dang, that's funny. How did it affect her? I mean, did you notice, did she ever come back from some and that were just wrecked her or what? Because I don't know how people, that's why I want to have a conversation with the people that are into that world, because I don't know how people function. I don't know how you see those types of things, how you process them, how you put them away, how you move on to the next one. Like I see something, I would wreck me. I have a buddy he's a U.S. Marshal. They do some stuff, and man, he's just like, there's certain things he's like, I absolutely cannot be involved in. He's like, it just wrecks you. And the guys, I just couldn't imagine going through files. And when you catch one of these predators, it's not like, okay, we got him.
You want to just pummel and push their face through the dirt.
100%. But then you got to go through terabytes of videos, photos, and I would say that 99% of the average American has no idea what's going on with these children.
Well, no, these children, and so the FBI too, like they handle bestiality cases. You'd be surprised how many of those fall into that same category.
Oh, that's that whole realm of porn, of the dark fix, and then it gets into all that shit.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's like, think about normal couple conversations.
Yeah, what type of conversation you having at dinner?
She's looking at her Fed phone, and then she gets a file or something, and like I'm sitting there, and she's like, look at this, desensitized to a certain degree. The same thing like with the pornography. Yeah. I'm like, what? Like that is a individual having sexual intercourse with an animal that I'm looking at graphically, or a child or something like that. And she did a lot of undercover work too, like doing stings with Johns too, where she'd dress up like a younger girl. I'd always make fun of her. I'm like, you don't look 15, but
you're desperate. They do, I guess.
I guess so. And then, like she'd be in a hotel room and they'd have feds in the other room, and, some Motel 8 in Shreveport, Louisiana. And then they just like mop up Johns and stuff like that. And, it's crazy. And it's crazy the breadth that they would do. like they'd be busting down like the rub and tug joints. She's like, yeah, because that falls in that purview too. So she'd be like, yeah, it'd be pretty funny. Like you see those massage joints and you like they have like the mirror doors and stuff. She's like, yeah, one time they were in there and had leads for a bunch of these different ones around Baton Rouge where we were at, and she was like, it was like noon on a Tuesday, and like they're full kit. She's got her AR on her. They're like going through stuff, and she's like, they'd already done like the sweep, looking for condoms and whatever else. And then, she's sitting in that little front entryway, and then like a good old boy coming in at like noon for a massage, and like opens the door, and there's like 5 FBI agents in full kit. And he's like, just shut the door. And then like they grabbed him, pulled him in. He's like, I just, it's just a hard day. I just looking for, I just needed a massage. I got a bad back. And they're like, just get out of here. But,
this isn't the laundromat.
Exactly. Oh man, this is not the lunch joint, man.
Yeah, I thought you guys had sandwiches in here.
Yeah, but it's hard. Did
that take a toll on your guys' marriage?
100%. Like, I mean, 23, getting married, and my communication skills sucked.
For sure.
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and not being successful at any of the things that I wanted to do. I'm sure that played back into how I communicated her. I saw her success. Like there's a lot there that I can reflect on now and be like, I was probably an asshole too.
Absolutely.
But working in that particular vein, it did. And like, I could see it. I think maybe now with her own reflection, she could see it too, I'd hope. But it was rough. Just the day in, day out of seeing that every day.
I don't know how it's not. Like I'm not giving anybody the green light or the justifying whatever actions and whatever, however your marriage ended, but how do you see that? That's why I want to have those conversations. Like, how do you process, how do you go to work every day working in a children's sex crime department of the CIA, FBI, whatever it may be, local law enforcement, where you're processing just images and videos and text and just the horrible shit that's all day, every day.
And it's everywhere. That's the other thing that's what got to me is like, it'd be like the school teacher down the road, or the
cop, the chief.
Yeah.
Did you see all these little vigilante, the guys that are out catching all these predators now?
Yeah.
How many cops are getting caught? I mean, military, law enforcement, teachers, pastors.
Well, I've got one for you. So we were like in this tight friend group. So my ex-wife and her best friend in the FBI, they were both working VCAC, because it was mostly ladies who worked that and some men. Her best friend's partner, like FBI partner, we'd see him all the time. They were a little older than us at the time, of course. So they were probably like late 40s. He was kind of getting closer to the end of retirement. So he'd been working VCAC for a long time.
VCAC's the children.
Violent crimes against children.
Okay.
And, I've been to tons of dinner parties with this guy. So we're in this tight friend group. It was kind of like the husbands of the FBI, because, I was tight with this other girl's husband. We got into hunting together.
Okay.
Started doing that. But after my ex-wife and I had gotten divorced, I'd already been remarried, and she gave me a call. And she's like, hey, I just got something that's really bothering me, and I want to tell you. And, anybody can Google this. But the guy that was our friend, our mutual friend's partner in VCAC, got rolled up for crimes against kids.
His wife is one that's working in the agency.
No. So
he was
working the agency.
This dude's working
20 years in VCAC, or close to it, close to retirement, and gets rolled up for exploiting children, exposing himself to children, and the very person that's supposed to be there
protecting them. I just saw one of Chris Hansen's back, right? The Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
Chris
I think it's Chris Hansen. Good surname.
Right. There was a freaking cop in there that was one of his things. He's like, you're a law enforcement officer and you work in this department? Outed the whole entire thing. What? You can't trust anybody. You have dudes working inside of violent crimes against children, and meanwhile they're doing the exact same thing.
And I don't know, like, it goes to your point, like, and that's where like there's no benefit of doubt for that guy. That guy should burn.
Absolutely.
And I think I don't know if he got life or what, but I just looked it up the other day, and I know he's been processed and hopefully getting his due in prison. But like, is there a limit? Right? Like, I think there is. I don't know what that limit is. Like,
how do you expect somebody to be engulfed in that field for 5, 10, 15 years? And I'm not justifying. There's nothing justifies ever be. But I mean, dude, I don't even know. I don't even. Like, is it just human nature? You're exposed to something all day, every day, and then it gets numb. You get hardened to it or numb to it. Then it at some point turns to now you're turned on. I mean, that would be an interesting one to see how the psyche on that. I mean, you look at Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Or not? Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. When these people end up falling. No, that's where you keep your people sick. What is it when you?
You
fall in love with your captor or whatever.
Yeah.
That is Stockholm.
No, Stockholm syndrome's like when you get depressed in the winter. But I know what you're talking about.
Stockholm's when you like keep your kids sick and shit, right?
No, that's. Look at us two retards trying to figure this out. I was gonna say Asperger's, but maybe that's what we do have.
Babe, I've been diagnosed. No, but it's just like, I mean, look at these people that get kidnapped and they end up falling in love with it's just, the human mind's fascinating. I mean, I'm not justifying any of it, but what do you ask that guy? Like, when did this turn?
Yeah. Like, was it
or did he get into it? It's been into it the whole entire time and just got caught.
Yeah. And that's what you don't know. And I don't know. And it's horrifying. And like, it's one of those things too. Like, I'd be at dinner parties with this guy, like never in a million years. Like, there wasn't like the yellow flags. I didn't like get the creepy vibes from the guy, you know, like
ever.
No.
Dude, I had a buddy that got caught up. He's dead now. He killed himself. Only option.
Yeah.
Only option. I don't condone suicide by any means, but when you get caught diddling it, this dude traveled with me. He was a camera guy. Like I considered him a friend. This guy, country music singer, had a huge TV show, smoke show, wife, like had it all. He was in the kids. Ended up getting caught, and then everything came out, and then he ended up going down to the Everglades and doing what he had to do, which was his only option. But I never in a million years. I mean, I told the wife when it all came out, I was like, bro, I've sat at dinner with this dude, face sore, belly from laughing all night. All night I'd laugh with this dude. And hilarious. We'd be on trips. I almost killed him like 2 or 3 times. Just the wildest shit. And then pedo all comes out. And you're just like, holy fuck, dude. Like,
it's horrifying. Like you don't know. And that's what I try to tell people too. Like, you know, it's like you get to kind of look up under the hood a little bit. Like when you're exposed to that, like everybody's like, yeah, it's prevalent. You know, watch out for your kids. You know, make sure they don't have like access to the internet. Like, no, like it's beyond that now. And like now being
neighbor.
Well, now being a dad, like that has like, I had an observation like to see it on the ground, but I had no kids. I wasn't like super close with my nieces and nephews at the time.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't around kids.
Doesn't hit you.
No, exactly.
Right. It should. And that's just reality. It's just, I don't know another example, but yeah, if you don't have kids, you're not a dad, you're not a mom that's in that protective mode. You hear the stuff and you just go along with your day.
Well, I'd see it, you know, day in, day out with my ex-wife, like the cases, you know, going to like see the kids, do this stuff. Like it never hit me when I was doing like, oh, this is very interesting. I'm glad there's someone like my ex-wife out here doing this stuff. But like, it wasn't until after and when I had my own kids where I was like, I am glad there are good people out there trying to do that work, you know, putting aside like the, hopefully just like an anomaly of a bad person in a powerful spot, but it just hits so different. And I'm sure my kids are going to be in some frustrating spots with me on like the level of protection that I'll have. Hopefully the way we raise them, they'll understand and appreciate it, but
don't bend.
You can't.
Don't ever bend.
You can't.
My wife and I we're equally yoked on everything. And there's certain things where I'm like, she'll be like, I think it's okay. Absolutely not.
Yep.
No. Because it just takes that one time. We should have. I'm not going to be that parent. Yep. I would rather my kids live such a great life. Do we need to allow that to happen? Is that going to affect the rest of their life because they couldn't do a sleepover at some random house? That's going to ruin her whole childhood, or the fact that we're letting our child go to a house that we don't even know the parents that well?
Well, I had my first interaction, or not interaction, but like, you know, my kids are young. So I've got a 5-year-old, an almost 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, my
You've been busy.
man, we ripped the Band-Aid. I drove myself to the vasectomy clinic after number 3.
Facts.
We were done, but it was great. You know,
Yeah.
we're a little older, so we got started late, and it's fantastic. But our oldest, she starts school in the fall. So she's going to a private school here, which is going to be great. But VBS, we're actually pretty ingrained in our church here in Boise, and, you know, fantastic community. I talk to the security folks, you know, I have those relationships. Like, they were going to do VBS, and it was like 2 hours for 3 nights in a row. I felt comfortable. I went, I saw they had a great system for
VBS?
Vacation Bible School.
Oh, okay.
You know, like they usually do it every summer, and like, you know, the joke in like Christian communities, like, you know, you farm your kid out to every single VBS around the valley, so you get free childcare.
Okay.
It's kind of the joke in the summer. But so I did this with my oldest daughter, first time she's done that, and they had a great system of like, you as a parent have an ID, you check your kid in, and then took forever, but at the end, they would one by one, like you'd get in line and it was your turn, they'd have an individual go, confirm it was your kid, come back, confirm your ID, and send you on your way. I actually appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of parents were like complaining and they're like, oh, this is taking forever. I'm all for it. My wife's parents, very religious, and they go to a Russian-Ukrainian church here. And my mother-in-law was like, you should send Ellis to VBS for 2 days, because they had their own VBS for 2 or 3 days. And initially we were like, yeah. But as it got closer, I'm like, I don't know any of these people. We don't go to this church. I don't know these people. Like, I've seen on the other side, and like, I kind of threw a little bit of a fit where I was like, she's not going. And then we got to the point where it's like, if grandmom and granddad are there, I'm okay with it. If they're there and she has someone there with them that I trust, then we're okay. And that's what they had to do for us to be okay with it. But that was my first exposure of like having that feeling of like, wait.
Trust it every time.
Yeah, I don't feel this.
Don't ever not trust your gut on leaving your kids or putting them into something. That's one of my biggest fears, man, is being that parent. I'm like, I should not have let them go. And you have to live with that the rest of your life. And then whatever happens to your child, hopefully their soul's not taken from them at a young age because some piece of shit human being out there. But no, dude. There's my wife. That's what I was saying. My wife and I are very equally yoked on a lot of things, but there's every now and then I'm like, nope. And she's like, really? I'm like, no, I don't have. And the same with her. She has certain things where I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with it. She's like, I'm not cool with that. I'm like, okay, I don't ever argue with Mama Bear. Like, but I will argue against things if it's triggering something with me. But I'm telling you, as a dad, you ever have that feeling? Don't ever bend the knee. I don't care. Like, dude, that's how I explain it. This is going to dictate the rest of their life or ruin their whole entire summer because they can't go to the park with these people or whatever the situation may be. It's rampant.
Well, that's why we need training for guys. Not even just for like, I'm talking about just discipline and everything else.
Absolutely.
Like, we have such a weak society.
We do.
Like,
absolutely.
God. Like, and I've been very fortunate. Like, I grew up in combat sports kind of area. Like, all my friends have been like disciplined guys or military.
Yep.
And, you know, people falter, of course. But like that type of group has a better penchant to be like, not bend the knee.
Yep.
But then you look around and like, I'll meet some individuals, like when I go out to like different like meet and greet type of things, I'm like, you would cave immediately if your daughter's like, yeah, I want to go to the sleepover.
Oh, 100%. Because your kids, that's where a lot of parents, they put their kids' joy, their kids
in the driver's seat, and
they want to make everything great for them, you know, and they want, because they're lacking in other areas where you're not an intentional dad, you're not present, you're sacrificing everything because you're working to provide for your family. But in the back of your head, you have this, you know that you're missing out on time. You know that you're neglecting them. So you'll just say, yeah, oh yeah, it's fun for them. Cool. Send them. Oh, they can go do a sleepover. Yeah. I don't have a problem. She's enjoying it because you're not there to providing those memories and educating your kid and all that other stuff that comes along with being an intentional present father. And they give, and they're just, yeah, no problem. And then you just hear about it, dude. You hear about it. And it just takes one night.
That's the most horrifying part.
And your child's ruined.
And you see it. And then what boggles my mind is I get in my own head sometimes, and you see people on the street. And now I've never had empathy for people who, you know, tweakers, you know, people. I always just like, what did you fuck up to get to where you're at? Like, were you not disciplined? Were you not this? Were you not that? And I have started to grow, I think, as a person and gain more empathy for some people in situations where, you know, God forbid, like, someone had left them with a friend, an uncle, and then they had their soul taken. Like it's a hard thing to balance, but like I am finding myself a little more empathetic. Like I see people as kids now as a parent, and I'm like, and some of it's unfortunate and some people are just assholes, but
why are they an asshole? What happened? Was back up 15, 20 years and see where they hit that Y in the road, or they were a child and they were introduced to pornography, or they're introduced to drugs. I mean, dude, we had a guest on that her mom was giving her drugs at like 10.
Yeah.
She's a product of her environment, and people are faulting her. Oh, you're just this and this and this. It's like,
yeah.
did you not hear the first 5 seconds of this conversation where she just spills her guts how her mom was giving her alcohol, her little baby brother alcohol and mushrooms and giving her meth and shit at like 10, 13 years old. And we're going to sit here and fault her for that? It's her fault.
Yeah.
Same with these kids that are abused and grow up in their home with an abusive stepfather or their dad or mom or whatever it may be. And then, okay, you know, where is that? I'm with you, dude. Like I
struggle with it. I'll be honest. Cause like my nature is to be like, you're at fault. And it's also hard for me because I didn't grow up with abuse, you know?
Same.
So like I didn't grow up with that. So it's hard for me to relate. Like my first exposure was those 6 years being married to somebody who was dealing with that day in, day out. And even that, before I had kids, didn't grow that much empathy or as much as I probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
But now that with the kids, it's like, okay, this is different because you see the joy. Like our kids are so pure.
Yes. You should homeschool them.
Yeah.
You're fucking up.
No.
Even though it's a private school, you should homeschool them. If you want to preserve your kids' innocence and purity, homeschool them.
Yeah.
There's no different. And now the problem, and I'm not knocking private schools. I know it's you're not, and I don't even know your guys' wife works, finance, whatever. Dude, now all these private schools are just becoming public schools because everybody's pulling their kids and they don't have the ability to homeschool. So they're just pulling their kids and sticking them in these private Christian schools or Catholic schools. And then the people that are, oh, my kid's in a Christian school. It doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I think that's the thing too. Like you can't let that guard down just because of
exactly. But I think a lot of people do, and there's no difference now. But if you, as far as purity, innocence, putting a time capsule on your children, which is, dude, I got my little one turning 12. She still plays with dolls and toys, and some people hear that be like, bro, dude, that's way too old. She hasn't been exposed. She doesn't know the drama. She doesn't know makeup and looking at celebrities and trying to compare herself to shit. She's in the front yard playing with, she ran it. She got a little homeschool crew here. They're in something. She comes home bleeding and she's cut. I fell my face first in the pond. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, like that. But if I'm telling you, I know you got a lot of time to process, but the fact that you notice how pure your kids are, if you want to put that in a time capsule, get them out of everything and put them under your roof, and then watch as your kids get older, that every single one of them be best friends.
Yeah.
I have an 18-year-old and I have a 12-year-old, and dude, they have their sister moments, but how tight they are from a 6-year gap.
Yeah. And ours are so back to back, but like right now, like, we've essentially been raising them up in Atlanta, which you know where that's at. Like, you know, we were up there last week and my daughter caught a frog in a bucket and all the kids were sitting around poking the frog and laughing. And then we had the chipmunks coming up and, you know, playing with us. And that's that like purity and
preserve that, dude. Put them in a time capsule. You put them in school, dude. And now this is how you look at it. I explain it to buddies. There's like, dude, I had this argument with a buddy not too long ago. My kid's he's in one of the best private schools. Cool. That's great. You're able to afford that and put them in a private school. You do not know who all the kids, all the problems at home, what their parents are doing, the drunk dad, the abusive narcissist mom, whatever it may be. And then they get to bring that to your child. And now they're exposing your children to that. The conversations, what's this mean? What does that mean? I saw this. Little Timmy showed me this. Get gone. But instead, your kids are home. You're able to control the whole entire environment that they're in, what they're exposed to, what they're taking in, their conversations, everything. That is why I am such an advocate on home. And you would ask me before we would have pulled our kids, you're fucking high. If we would have ever been homeschool kids or homeschool parents with homeschoolers. Never. You would ask me, you're going to homeschool your kids or you got a better chance of becoming an astronaut? I'd be like, oh, astronaut all day before I ever homeschool our children.
Well, I think that's the tug of war that we've been in because, you know, we've been up in Atlanta and it's like when we were up there and we had our first kid, you know, we were back home from the hospital 2 weeks, you know, tracking a bear out the back door with a baby on the chest kind of thing. And, you know, we're like, oh, we're going to be homeschooling. And then, you know,
Do it, dude. If you have the chance, I would 1,000,000,000% recommend it.
Okay.
Okay, so we got stuck on that kid shit for a little bit.
Which is good. By the
Yeah.
way, I got some people you should talk to who are doing it domestically, as far as like not with an agency working on, human
Send them
trafficking.
my way.
Yep.
Send them my way. I really want to have this conversation. We just need more. I want to get Tim Tebow on, dude, so bad. Like, I guess I'm not on that level yet for him to. We will be though. I'm coming for you. But
Come on, Timmy.
what's coming? The numbers are dude. That's the crazy world for like these people that. I mean, bro, we're getting so many views and we're showing every day. Dude. Somebody's like, holy shit, with this episode and this, and this, like so much positivity. But you have to have like a certain stature of followers in order for these people to like even want to give you attention. It's like, dude, here's our numbers. Just spread this message. Just get it out there. But you got to be at this. You got to be the Sean Ryan level. I'm like, bro, I'll pay for everything. Just come out here. Just spread this message to my audience. Yeah, I don't even give a shit. Like, we don't even have to. You just walk in, tell what you're trying to get across, because I feel he's such an incredible spokesman.
Look at Christian, and he's doing it for, like, again, you never know, but you feel you're doing it for the right reasons, right? I mean, there is something to be said for intuition around that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can be wrong. I've been wrong in the past, but
I'm wrong every day, according to my wife. So
yeah, amen to that.
Cut that part out. Yeah, she doesn't listen to him anyways. There's so many. She gets to hear all the stories. But okay, so after all of that, when did you get divorced? Where were we in your life timeline?
2019.
Okay.
2019. Find out that my wife was unfaithful.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of those things mixed up in it, and
Was it with an operator inside the FBI?
No.
Okay. All right.
Jiu-jitsu gym. One of those typical kind of things. Nonetheless, I wasn't looking. I was like, I'm done. I just had that feeling like I'm done. I've always kind of followed my intuition. Like there's not repairing this for me.
How'd you find out?
She told me.
Came out with it.
She came out with it.
How long was it going on?
I haven't gotten a good timeline.
Okay.
So, months, year, don't know. I traveled a lot for work too. Okay. So like, again, like my inability to communicate, I was gone with my tech job, usually like from Sunday to Thursday.
All right. That's rough.
It is rough and it adds up.
Yeah. And she's doing her thing.
And then she's doing the VCAC stuff. Like that's taking a toll. She's dealing with a lot of that on her own. There's alcohol, there's all sorts of stuff that's involved that I'm sure just looking at it in aggregate, you can say, like, oh yeah, that was not going to work. For sure. Yeah. So we went through that. Yeah. It sucked, but I had just gotten into hunting right before that.
Hunting will take your mind off things.
Hunting will take your mind off things. Well, talk about things just accelerating fast. Like I didn't grow up in a hunting family. I had gotten a hand-me-down single cam bow from a buddy of mine that was like 2 inches too short on the draw length.
Yep.
So I was trying to shoot in the backyard in Louisiana, and I dry fired it like the second shot, and blew it up, and then put it back together. Like, slow learner. Went on a pig hunt, shot no pigs. Then I hit the divorce, and I was like already eyeballing like big game, like this is what I want to do, kind of thing. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm like faced with this opportunity. Like I can go wherever I want. And my ex-wife and I, ironically, like we'd always done like the typical like dink, like we'll go overseas for a vacation. We'd go down to Belize or Turkey or wherever, like once a year for a vacation. And the year before we got divorced, I was like, I've never really seen the Rockies. And this was when I was starting to get into like hunting and, wanting to see it. So I was like, let's go to Idaho. So we flew to Boise. We drove up 55 up to like Banks Lowman, took that over to Lowman and went up to Stanley, stayed in Stanley. And like on that drive, in my little rental car, like in May, still some snow on the ground, there's like a bald eagle flying right next to the window. I'm like, fuck yeah, America, this is it. And I saw antelope, elk, all these animals I'd never seen before, like in a short time frame. And I remember telling her up there, I'm like, we're going to move here. And then she kind of hemmed and hawed. She's like, maybe when I retire, maybe we can get a place up here sometime when we have more money. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We're moving here. And I said that. And it was cemented in myself because we walked. And thankfully she could travel with a service weapon. Again, talking about being like the guy who doesn't get to carry, you know, you got your wife protecting you, but she gets to carry.
You got your gun?
Kind of, but she could carry on a plane. So it was great.
Oh, no shit. That's nice.
Oh yeah. So she could carry on a plane. She just had to check in with the flights or like with the pilots, and they would know where she was at, and same with any of the other agents. So she got to open carry on planes.
No shit.
So we came out here, she had her gun with her, and you know, we had it when we were going on a hike, and we were hiking somewhere out near Stanley, and you know, there's a lot of snow on the ground. We weren't prepped for it. And kid you not, like we're walking like 2 or 3 miles down this trail trying to go up to one of the lakes. Clearly we weren't going to make it. And I look up and there's this huge wolf. Just a gray wolf, just standing up on a ridge line.
Shit.
And like my wife's like, that's a wolf. It wasn't a coyote. It was a wolf. And I was like, kind of felt like that was like my spirit animal, because I grew up like looking at this wolf poster growing up, reading Call of the Wild and stuff. I'm like, this is it.
I'm like, give me a fucking pistol now.
Well, I know. Well, hindsight being what it is. I mean, it was only like, it was 50 yards away.
Oh God, I'm sending it. I'm sending it
100%.
100%.
But we didn't. We didn't know any of the hunting regulations. I didn't know that it was like
Comes
open
to
season on
There
wolves.
is no regulations. Stack them all.
Yeah, what is it? Smoke a pack a day?
Yeah.
Well, now I got a bunch of pelts on my wall, so we've caught up for it.
Okay.
But I told her, like, we're moving here. And she's like, I don't know. And then it was like literally a month or two later that she told me. So I was like, I literally got in the car. I grabbed my bags. I had just shot my first deer with a bow. So I had a cooler full of deer meat. And I was like, I guess I'm going to Idaho.
That was no shit.
I literally got in the car and I drove to Boise, not knowing where I was going to stay.
What a blessing.
Yeah. And then I found a month-to-month rental in downtown Boise. It was right next to another jiu-jitsu gym. So I hopped right into that and kind of started meeting people, and then started looking for properties, and then ended up in the mountains pretty soon after that. And then COVID hit.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what'd you transition to after the whole FBI thing or the spook thing didn't work out? What did you find yourself doing?
It was tech, you know, so I ended up going back to school in the U.S., taking on more debt because I'm a moron.
Dude, how much in debt or how much college you got at this point?
Well, so I had my undergraduate degree.
Okay.
I had a quarter of an MBA.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting my graduate degree from Johns Hopkins in math.
How many years in math? What did you start at? What would you say would you went to go to school originally for?
Political science.
And you finished with a math
Well,
major?
statistics, but yeah. It's just,
that's college.
well, yeah, you got to feel like that goes to the point of like, if I had had some life experience before taking on that first debt,
Yeah.
I probably would have known more.
Mhm.
What maybe I could do or what I might be more adept at doing, which ended up being kind of in the AI tech space. So I ended up getting that degree from Johns Hopkins. My ex-wife started working for the FBI. So we were moving around. So I was kind of doing it remotely. Like I would fly in to Baltimore, do some classes, do a lot online, finish the degree. And then about halfway through that, I got a job with IBM. And
Doing what?
so this is ironic. So same, like the tenacious thing. So people listening, like, just annoy the shit out of people, and sometimes stuff will happen. Same that I did with that State Department thing where I was emailing every day.
Yeah.
I had applied for a job, and I had reached out to some guy on LinkedIn, and I said, I'm desperate. Like, I need a job. I don't have any experience here. Like, look at my resume of random internships overseas. Like, does that count for something? He's like, not really. What about my political science degree? He's like, mm-mm. I'm like, what about some balls? And he's like, sure, we could use some of those. And I emailed him literally once a week with like a dissertation on like the market for whatever this was. And it was a consulting role in disaster recovery for like data centers.
Okay.
What happens if a meteor hits your data center? And this is like before all the cloud computing stuff was like super big.
Okay.
So it was like physical data centers. And he's like, we have the opening and I'd like you to interview. And then as it happens with corporations, right in the interview process, like we're in a hiring freeze. I was like, shit. So that took me in this 8-month period where I'd email him once a week, be like, as soon as this opens, I want this job. As soon as this opens, I want this job. And I thought it was never going to happen. Eventually it did. So I get this great offer. I'm ready for this. Like, my moment has come. I have dedicated 6 years to upper education. I've taken on the debt. My white picket fence, like, ride is here. And it's like $45,000. It was like that immediate, like, yes. And then like the deflationary, like, that's it. That's
reality.
That's what it is. And it was great. Like, I learned a lot. And then, you know,
what were you doing exactly?
PowerPoint jockey.
Oh, death by PowerPoint, huh?
I mean, it was a situation. So like, it's really hard to say. Like, you know, like it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean, it's an entry level bullshit job, but
Okay.
like I'd work with these other consultants who've been doing it their whole lives. And we would come up and like go to a company and we'd build out a BIA, which is an Excel sheet, which is business impact analysis. So if you're BAM Incorporated and you have a system that runs your merchandising and you have a system that runs this and all these technological systems and databases that run your business, I would look at each one of those and I say, BAM, if your merchandising system and all the technology under it goes away, you're going to be out $1 million or $2 million. And you'd lay out this thing to say, like, you know, if you're unable to touch your data for 4 days, you're out $4 million, 6 million, 7 million. You like map it out. And then once you did all that, it'd be like, well, how do we shore up those systems? Well, I think IBM has something to make you a little more secure, you know? And then you go into that whole spiel and then you pass it off to another team to go implement whatever software, hardware.
So you're a sales rep for software.
Yeah, pretty much.
AI software yet or at this point?
No.
Okay.
So similar, met somebody once I was in, I met a product manager and I was like, I don't even know what that is. So I asked them and they're like, well, you know, we handle like building new products, figuring out the go-to-market, figuring out the sales, the pricing, the strategy, all this crap. And when I met them, like, oh man, like if I had known some of that little business that me and my buddy started that went from $1 billion idea to a negative $18,000 idea, like if we had known who we were actually building for
sure,
if we had some go-to-market strategies, any of that, like maybe it wouldn't have bombed. So I'm like, I need to do that. So same process again. I started hammering somebody in there that worked for IBM Watson because this was when IBM Watson, the AI thing, was starting to become a little bit more popular. It had already played. There was a famous chess player where it played IBM Watson, and I don't know who won. I'm assuming the AI did, but it was like the very budding elements of AI in like the public sphere, and I just bullied my way into a role as a product manager there.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, hire me. Like, I know I don't know shit, but hire me. I will bust my ass. And same thing, I just hammered this person. I'm like, when you have a role, I'm the guy. When you have a role, I'm the guy. And I just didn't let up. And then eventually they had a role and I was the guy.
How long did you do that for?
That particular role, like only like a year or two.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, you know, I went from consultant making $45,000 a year. I got a small pay bump to go be a product manager, but still well under 100K. And then what I realized is there's a game to this. Like I could stay at IBM and get a 2% raise every year for 20 years.
God, kill me.
Right. So then like I started gaming it. Like I've worked at a lot of companies, frankly, where it was like, if I go to a different company, then I can get a $30,000 raise. Go work there for 2 years, start looking around, then I go to the next place and come. So now I got to a place where I'm comfortable. Like I want to ride some things out, and I've had some long tenures at places now. But in order to kind of like make up for all that lost time I had going into higher education, I just jumped around until I kind of got to a point where I thought I was, you know, where I needed to be.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But since then I've been working on like the back end infrastructure side of AI. So like how you build, deploy models, these LLMs, the data that underlies it. That's been the realm I've been playing in for the past 12 years.
AI terrifies me. I've had my buddy on. We talked about a little bit with Ben, the family IT guy. So anybody listening that has kids on any platform, phones, iPads, whatever it is, need to check out Ben, the family IT guy. He breaks down everything. For anybody listening, go check him out. He's got how to swipe your kids' phones, how to lock everything. You know, he's an asset, a huge asset for parents, and just keeping yourself safe online. But AI terrifies me, man. I don't think people really realize what. This isn't like, oh, it's going to take our jobs. And I see AI as this huge pendulum swing, right? And so it's so new for the majority of us right now. I mean, even though AI has been around for a really long time now, it's just mainstream, obviously, with ChatGPT. It's crazy at how many people are dependent on it.
Yes.
And how it is now running everything for them, which is great to streamline your system. So obviously as a business owner of multiple businesses, like that's what you want. But there's just certain things that us, but the wife and I we love doing branding and marketing, helping these companies start up, small companies. We just build everything out and be like, here's your business and here's how you run it. Dude, the amount of people are like, can't we just use ChatGPT for that? And we're like, oh my God. And then you could tell. So now you have this whole era of new business owners that are literally letting ChatGPT build and run their business. And you can tell. And now there's a huge swing already. So as in the user or the consumer, I would say, are now already over AI social media, AI run businesses. It's a great tool to implement into your business, but to allow it to just run everything for you, holy shit! To develop your marketing, your artwork, your website formats. It's, dude, these people just
there's an eye for it. You know what I mean?
Once you're in it, once you know AI,
yeah.
Oh, dude,
and that's the thing where I think people. I have a perfect example. My dad, he will listen to this because my dad is, my
that's
biggest
dope.
fan.
I don't think my dad's ever listened to one of my episodes.
Well, my dad's listened to every single podcast I've ever done.
Good. That's a supportive dad.
Okay. He's a great dad.
Good for him.
But I'm going to roast him right now because he's a boomer.
Oh, yeah.
And
let him have it.
Well, so this happened yesterday.
I meant the boomers, not just your dad.
Yeah,
I categorize them all.
Your dad in particular.
Let's get him.
Sorry, Stewie. He just retired from GE after 20 years.
Okay.
So congratulations to Dad. Great. Yay. He's entrepreneur. He's always had side hustles.
Mm-hmm.
He's an engineer. He builds shit. He's been working on this awesome thing. It's like a retractable net, but like for batting cages, other stuff. And he was starting to think out loud. He's like, what else could I do? Like, where they're at, they have problems with deer eating, gardens and whatnot. He's like, we could do that for like protecting gardens. And I'm going to build a website for him. So I was like asking him for some stuff, and he sends me this picture of one of his retractable nets, and he had used ChatGPT. I'll have to show you this. And it has a bunch of cartoon deer crying on the outside of this retractable net because they can't get to it. And we're in this family group chat, and, without missing a beat, I'm like, Dad, are those real deer? He's like, no, son, that's AI. And I was like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, you almost got it past me. And he caught himself. He's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But, it's just now is entering the zeitgeist for like our parents, boomers that don't have that eye, that aren't native to it. And then you entrust so much to it. And now you can hook up your bank account. Boo, scary.
Terrifying.
Like those are the things that I think are going to continue to just erode the trust and the, just comfort level of dealing with it.
Well, yeah, you look at now some of these businesses, you look and you click on them and the whole thing's done by AI. It's like, is this a child running this?
You can tell, like something's Claudified, right? Like you can tell if it's Claude or ChatGPT.
I pray that people use Claude, right? Like, okay, cool. At least we're using Claude, right? It's not just like, and trying to explain to people, like, they're like, oh no, I built all this on ChatGPT. I'm like, oh, for the love of God. Like, this is the most Pop Warner platform that you could ever do anything on. But the fact of how much trust, and these people are getting all of their information from it. Now we know who runs these AI platforms, so they can literally, you could ask certain questions and it lies all the time. I mean,
I've always worked in data, and this is the thing. So the math for AI has been around since the 50s. It's just now we have the hardware to catch up to where we have what we have today.
Got it.
Which is impressive, right? So math has been around since the 50s. That's not new. It's just now we have the compute power and the data from, years of social media and the internet since the early 2000s. Like now we have these just massive volumes of data to train it on as well and run it at a place that can actually be affordable. Like, and that's where we're at now. And that's cool. It's very impressive, but horrifying how quickly we've like turned over. And even just my day-to-day job, how much it has changed in 8 months.
Like what?
Everybody uses Claude.
Yeah.
Like you have enterprise licenses. It's locked down, right? So like you could have a business that's like locked down with your information. You're essentially like training on your own data for the most part. So it's got like compute level isolation and all that, which is cool. But like the functions, like there's now an expectation to do so much more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I am context switching way more than I ever used to because the expectation is I do way more. And it's true.
Yeah.
But then there's also that element of like having to catch stuff. Now I'm having to do stuff where I'm checking these outputs that I'm asking it to do my work for me because I have so much more to do, and it's hard. And it's really good. Like there's a great like curve of productivity.
Yep.
But I don't know where that cuts off, and I haven't seen it yet, but I can tell it's out there. And you've seen it with some companies of like, you're going to get to a point of diminishing returns.
Oh, for sure.
And you do that on a scale of like every big business, every small mom and pop business. I don't know what that looks like.
Dude, I'm just at the point where like, you can't even go on a website now and it's like, ask a question through whatever. And it's like, it has a little AI button on it. It's like, bro, like every single thing. And I get it, dude, as a business owner, I want to automate. I want everything to run as fast, as smooth. But there's just certain things that need human elements.
I've got an example for you. So I in this like men's group in my church, we meet every Friday and chit chat. We read a book, usually like every month or so. It's a men's book club, man. Anyways,
it works.
Yeah, it works. But one of the guys was telling me he and his wife are following like this, like a child psychologist, right? Like Christian child psychologist, written a lot of great books. And I guess maybe they've been to some of her conferences or something to that effect. But they went to her website recently, and it's interesting now. They're like, you go there and there's an agent, and it's like, let's say her name's Mindy. I don't know what her name is, but it's like Mindy's bot. It's like, you have a problem with your child, you can ask me, because this bot is trained on my whole corpus of child psychology books. And they're like, is that what we're outsourcing to? And that's what we were kind of talking. Like, that's where it gets weird. It's like,
yeah, people are relying on this.
And but for something like with your kids or something, like, yeah, if you talk to Mindy and you call her on the phone, you can give her the context and the nuance of the thing versus like, my kid's peeing his bed. Is it because of I'm a bad parent?
And the way that AI is programmed is going to give you the response that you want to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of the times.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. That's an incredible idea. This is how you should do it. But if
the affirmations are hilarious.
That's all. And then now it's fooling these people into like, oh yeah, this is going to work. And it's like, no, well, you still need to grind. You still need to build a business. Just because Claude is telling you here's your business plan for the next 9 months, just follow this and you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
That's where I think a lot of people are getting this false hope. And
take my $100 bill, Claude, and how do I make $1 million out of it?
100%. You can prompt it for anything. So with these data centers, I am a conspiracy theorist that they are not data centers. These are just security collection centers for everything that's going on with all the computers being tied together, all of our cameras and the systems and everything through this.
Unfortunately, they didn't let me in the CIA, so I can't tell you if that's true or not.
Well, I never made it that far, but it's just, that's where I'm like, this is more important. Now these data centers you see Utah going crazy right now. They want like that 40
here in Idaho.
I mean, here in
CUNA and
out here, you got Micron and everything. It's like, now this is where when people are like, oh, dude, these data centers are incredible. Why is it all of a sudden we need these giant data centers in every single state? Why is it such a push? Why are we bending rules, legislative things that have been put into place as far as protecting habitats and our natural wetlands and are protecting your data? Because I've been in environmental security. Nobody knows about it. I built a whole multi-million-dollar business in environmental security, protecting finches, prehistoric fucking shrimp, tortoises. Dude, I've gone through the ringer from California to Nevada to Idaho. You name it, I've worked.
You've protected the fishers.
Dude, the shit that we would have to do. And now it's like, yep, data center.
Yep.
Right? Like it
didn't matter.
Where did all this change? Why is it so important? Why is our government pushing for it so hard? Like that's who I am as an American. Like, if our government's trying to push it so hard, why? Instead of just everybody being like, these are great, going to create jobs. No, they're not. Yeah, they're going to create jobs while they're being built, but then everything's automated in there. That's the whole point of this fucking center, is because it's all just computers. You're going to have a couple of techs, and the people that are moving here are all from India. Like, we're not even employing Americans because we're too stupid or lazy to actually go and get the job. So they're outsourcing it to foreigners. Why is this such a giant push right now?
I don't know the answer to that question, because from my view, the demand is outpacing the need. To your point, like why do you need one in upstate New York right now, or 2 or 3? Why do you need one?
Yeah. Well, the water is why is this
like,
such
I
a
understand how data centers work. I worked in data centers at the outset of my career after my career in education. you know, it does take water. It does take cooling, but there are places you can build, like don't build in the desert. You know, just learn how to build it underwater. Like, you know, Elon had worked on for a little while. Like there's ways to do it that don't require the water and the resources of the local area, but it seems like we're putting them willy-nilly everywhere. And that math doesn't math to me, and I'm on the inside, like, for what it's worth. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, how much more compute power we really need to go to that next level, and I don't know what that next level is.
Yeah, that's a great question. Where do we go from here? We just keep adding giant square mile blocks of data centers. Like if we're slapping these things and they're so big already, you mean to tell me there's that much data from ChatGPT? How the fuck is it already operating?
Yeah.
How are we already using AI? It's flowing fine. Why do we need giant? Why? Make that make sense. If we already have these systems, they're being stored somewhere. What's the point of these giant data? Why are they so big?
Maybe the demand. Like here's like,
is it though?
Well,
where's the demand now?
Well, it's subsidized. So this is like Uber was. This is Zach's mental model. So take it for what it's worth. When Uber started, you know, the private equity companies completely subsidized it. You know, they fully financially backed it so that they could sell it at cost. So you could go on Uber, and I don't know if you remember ever having an Uber early in the days, like you could get cheap rides.
Yeah.
Super cheap rides, because everybody was like, well, I don't know if I trust this thing, like whatever. You get cheap rides everywhere. They started getting the hook. It's like getting high off, like you don't get high on your own supply, like you get the hook in people. So all of a sudden, you start getting the hook in people. People are taking cheap rides. Then you get to that next level where people are in big cities are like, why do I need a car? I'm going to sell my car. I'm just going to Uber everywhere. And then it's still at that good price, right? And then fast forward many years later where we're at now, like to go 10 miles from my house to the Boise airport, it's a $35 ride.
For real.
And that's not in like a peak area.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why? But you got the hook in, so now you can raise the price and people are still going to do it. So AI is in the same boat, especially like the clause of ChatGPTs. You can go get a free account. You can pay $20 a month and do a lot with it. And it's the same thing. It's all being subsidized by all the private equity. So it's subsidized by the private equity, but there is going to be that point where they like turn off the faucet or be like, you know, it's $100K a year for you to use your ChatGPT. That's an exaggeration. But like, I see a world in these corporations where they're coaching people like, hey, get enterprise ChatGPT, get enterprise Claude, see how much you can do with it. And then they reduce the head count. And they're like, well, you know what? You just chopped off a guy who's $100K a year.
We could charge you 25,
50K, 100K, whatever. They can charge what they want. Whereas like right now, it's like pennies on the dollar. Like,
I've never thought of that. So as these companies automate with ChatGPT, which are laying people off because they don't need somebody to sit there and scrub.
And it's cheap right now.
Then you think it's going to get to the point where they're going to just turn it off and be like, hey, now it costs this much.
Well, PE is going to want their money back. Same with Uber. And that's when the model switches from a pricing model. It's like, okay, well, now we charge more.
What's that going to do to a company that can't?
Great question. I don't know. I mean, you could surmise that it'll probably either go under or, you know, it's funny. I talk with people at both my work, other work, you know, just people who are in the industry or really any company. Everybody's using Claude. Everybody's using ChatGPT. And I was talking with someone the other day. They're like, I don't know what we would do if they just took this away or just turned it off.
Yeah, dude. So like, I don't even know if people are realizing that, because when we build out a lot of these, when we're building out the back end for people, it's like a full custom. So that way they're running it, and then you bring it, I think is the safest way, because we're also working with people. They're like, I want everything automated. I just want to click a button and it thinks and it sends this and processes this. And we're like, yeah, okay, cool. You're the customer. You're always right.
Yeah.
Wrong. And the wife and I will talk about, like, God, what if they just pull the plug on this? Okay, then that's the thing. When the people aren't realized, especially when you're integrating AI into your business, what happens when it is boop? Now you don't even know how to run your business. You don't even know how to process orders. You don't even know how to handle customer service. You don't even know anything, because we're putting all of our trust into this. You
want my own like personal mindfuck?
Yeah. Oh, please.
This goes to like the trades. and it's going to tie all this in. For the long time, centuries, we worked with our hands. It's a guy, you knew how to take care of your house, water heater breaks, you try. Like, this is all pre-YouTube, right? Like, eons. Like, that's how we operated. You could hunt, you could gather, you could do all the things you need to do with your hands. Modern society, starting in the 80s and 90s, when we started to like push STEM education over trades, we took the trade schools out. We went on this path where we're now in a position where most men, myself included till very recently, like, I would outsource any of the manual labor in my life. Water heater breaks, call somebody. Toilet breaks, call somebody. Change my oil, go to the store. And that's the generation that has been coming up, like a lot of the millennials, and then obviously Gen Z, and after that, of course, too. But we're in a position where we forgot how to work with our hands. We have been working with our laptops, but now we're in a position where that goes further, where people who at least used to know how to build the back-end systems, they don't need to do that anymore. They automate it. Now we're forgetting already how to do even the technological stuff that supports everything.
That's a great point.
We're further degrading ourselves and removing ourselves. Like, eventually it's like the all-knowing singularity, AI, whatever. Like, there's going to be a very select few who understand the piping from all the way from like the electricity and the water it takes to go to the software that's lying underneath it, because it's all been washed away and generations forgot how to build physical stuff. And then now our generations that have been working solely with building software are going to forget how to do that too.
This is why it blows my mind that these parents are still out here not forcing, encouraging, especially these young men that are in their homes to go to college instead of going into the trades. It is honestly one of the most frustrating things for me when I have these parents reach out and they're like, and I love talking to parents. I love mentoring. I got men in my community that this is what we do. But hey, line this out. But I'm like, why? Okay, you got this young man. Granted, I went military route. I do not recommend the military anymore. Like, look who we fight for. Look who's running our military. Look at the wars we've got into. I was in the Middle East for half my young adulthood, and I never found a weapon of mass destruction. So all this other shit, right? Meanwhile, you got these kids out of high school, especially here in Idaho. They have incredible programs that are getting these kids into these apprentice programs in high school. They're getting, instead of getting a high school diploma, they're in trade schools, and then they're graduating at 17, 18 years old with a trade, and they're walking straight into utility jobs, electrical jobs, gas, pipe, everything that this world, and they're like, oh, AI is going to automate it all. No. You're protected, and you're walking into these jobs hardly any debt, if any.
60K plus.
Starting entry level, before overtime, medical, dental, you're getting all of the benefits. It's so frustrating. Like, why are you not encouraged? Dude, Quana owns the utility company or the lineman school right here. One of the best lineman schools in the country. Your son can go, and daughter can go and become a lineman, and you're going to walk out and you can get a job anywhere. Dude, that was one of my biggest things. When I transitioned out of the military, I got into the security world, and then I got pulled into the utility world by doing executive security for these owners of the utility world. Then they saw what I was doing, how I built this company for them. Then they pulled me in. It was almost sickening that I'm not going to say wasted all this time in the military. It led me to my family today. I have some of my best friends because of the military, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting here going, bro, I could be making fuck you money at this age.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same feeling I've had, right? Like, it's the path of like what you were supposed to do. I did the right thing. But then you talk to your buddies who went right out of high school and, started a construction company or went to lineman school, and like where they're at now versus me. And I'm like, wait a second, I was on the right path.
Yeah. But here we are with, you're going to go dig ditches in high school summer? Yeah, you go dig ditches. You learn everything you can from that guy. And then guess what? You do that for 2 or 3 years, and then you take everything you know and you start your own little company. You get your networking, start networking immediately, learn what he's doing, ask every single question, do it for 2 or 3 summers. Landscaping, a dumpster removal. I know 2 little hustlers here. One of Bridger, I love this kid. This kid is a hustler. Bro, starts a freaking dumpster removal. He's just rentals. He goes and buys a trailer, dumps a dumpster off, goes and picks it up. He's printing money off of this shit, sells the business, has a landscaping business. Like, why are we teaching these kids, you need to be a doctor, an astronaut, a firefighter, police officer, instead of, you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to, or go into the trades. Obviously, it's much harder. And I don't want to say harder. Now with technology and AI, anybody can be an entrepreneur right now. But why are we not pushing these kids to go into a field where you're going to make an incredible life and career right out the gate instead of in debt? And guess what? If you want to go the college route, now you're making enough money to pay for your school. Yeah. You're not going to want to, because I don't see the point. I mean, obviously everybody's different. Great. If you want to, better yourself and go a more corporate route in the trades, absolutely. But wait until you put your time in and see if you like it. Yeah, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to transition. Guess what? Now you just left. You can go to you can go into the union, walk into the hall. Hey, I want to work and I want to get out of Idaho. I want to go down to Vegas. What do you guys got for me? Oh, we got a project starting down there. There's actually work going down there right now. You know what? I'm done with Vegas. I want to go to Phoenix. I want to work the disaster relief in Florida for the next 6 months, printing money, putting power lines back up while you're staying in hotels. It's going to be shitty living, but God bless the amount of money that you are making. And then you're going to look at your little college buddies and be like, oh, damn, dude, I was digging all those ditches. Working out pretty well because I got an F-250. I got a toy hauler. I'm driving around the country. I'm 20 years old, living life in zero debt, printing money. Life is going to be great.
You're wrong, though. You should be on a Zoom call back to back to back. That's where the pleasure and joy in life is found, my friend. You got it all wrong, Bam.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is hard. It's a hard question. Like, my philosophy, though, or I feel, is moving towards on teaching kids. Like, we need to remove you can go down this path, you can go down that path. Open all the fucking paths.
Every door should be open.
But what I don't think we've taught, and the only reason I kind of made it through, in my own personal opinion, on the other side of like this college trap, was grit. It's all those times that I was like hammering, like, you got to start teaching grit to kids. You said entrepreneur. An entrepreneur could be someone sitting there trying to make an app with Claude. It could be the kid trying to like hustle here and like making a dumpster business. Like, that's great. But that comes from grit and probably good relationships with their parents, seeing that grit in either a mentor or a parent. And that's what I think is missing.
With it.
You don't think that's teachable?
I'm sure everything's teachable, right? But did you look at some? I mentor a lot of these guys and their sons and stuff, and it's like I talk to some like, oh yeah,
tell them all the time
that kid's gonna make it, and then some of them are just, you could tell it's just you're motivated for something or not, but grit. I could be completely wrong. Like, there could be a whole bunch of fucking thesis and studies and stats out there that prove otherwise.
If you went to college,
yeah, right. I would know this. Yeah, but for those, especially with these dads and moms that are listening, you got that son that you just don't know. You're like, oh God, military is gonna. If you have the son, the military is gonna be good for you. No, it's not. The military is one of the most toxic environments you could ever send your children to. Granted, you're gonna have the time of your life, but it's very toxic, dude. That was some of the most toxic time of my life. Built an ego, built an image of myself that carried many years afterward. And dude, I was a shitty person. Not saying it's all because of the military, but especially in our job in the Marine Corps, just that atmosphere, bro. We were just out of control. Lord of the Flies.
You were expected to be too.
That's what the culture, like, you had to, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. But then we go to other units and they'd be like, these dudes are out of fucking control. And then it was like this pride thing everywhere we went. We were that unit. Yeah. Oh, trades, obviously, that's also a toxic environment.
It can be.
But you get to make it what you want. If you don't like that job that you're on, you get to go, you could switch, whatever, right? But it's just, if you have that son that you don't know if college is going to cut out for him, they probably weren't the best student, distracted all the time, mind in a million different ways, wants to hustle, he's got all piss and vinegar, bro, send his ass into the trades. They're good. It is a win-win. I don't know any negatives that would stop me if I had a son because people ask me all the time, would you send your kids in? Well, I have daughters, and the last thing I'd ever want my daughters to do is to join the military. Absolutely the fuck not. Unless they're going in as officers, even then. But for anybody that you just do not know, and your kids there's just a certain breed of people that are just built for it. The ones that just can't, I have a problem with authority. Dude, get your ass in the ditches, start welding, start grinding, whatever it is. It's going to set you up.
Well, the great thing, they're not mutually exclusive.
No.
Like, I think about hindsight. Like, I worked a lot of jobs in college to try to start paying that stuff down. I worked in a cigar shop. I worked for Red Bull. I did a bunch of stuff, and it was fun. And I'm being paid along the way, and that helped. But hindsight, I'm like, I could have easily, like, I went to college at Charleston, South Carolina. Tri-County Tech was right there. If I knew what I knew now, I would have been going to night welding school to get my stick welding certification.
Yes.
I just did that at CWI when I lost my job 3 years ago. I was doing night welding school. It's great. I'm doing the electrical journeyman's course while I'm still working my day job. Like, I'm still learning. But if I had done that when I was 18, 19, 20, like, my parents had that boomer mentality, like, go to college.
Yep.
Great. But if someone had been like, go to college, and instead of working that like retail job with a cigar shop,
learn tile.
Yeah.
Get in with a tile company. Get in with a sod company.
Now, granted, like, I also know me. Someone told me to do that back then. I've been like, again, I had been groomed essentially to be like, I'm going to have my cushy white collar job after all this. So I probably would have thought it was below me, or I didn't want to do it. But if I had the power of hindsight to go and like shake my old self by the shoulders and be like, listen, dummy, buy Bitcoin and learn a trade.
Yeah, but that comes just through the generational process at this college. So instead of you prepping your kid like us, you like, hey, how do we do this? What's your mind thought? Like my little one, I've talked about her on the show before. She's like, I want to make money. I'm like, well, it's the fall. Go door knock and start asking people to rake leaves. She was terrified to do it. Now, bro, we just had a huge farmer's market get canceled because of the weather. We're stuck with over 100 loaves of bread. Can't sell a single. What do her and her little homeschool friends do? Let's go door knock. And they sold a huge chunk of it to pay for our costs for the day. And, it was still a red weekend. But the fact that they had that initiative at 11 years old, okay, we're going to go sell these. And they weren't even selling they were just, we'll take whatever. They were just trying to make a buck. Mm-hmm. That's where it comes back to us as parents. Like, okay, cool. Do you want your kid and you have the life and they're going to go to college? Perfect. Teach them that. But if you're not pushing your kids and you don't have the funds to put them in or want them to be in debt, that's where we start teaching our kids. And hey, that's a great career. Hey, you see how that's doing it? I wonder where that guy's at. Start introducing. You got buddies that are in it. Next time your kids are around, man, how'd you get into this? Oh, dude, I had a guy that was drunk one night. Whatever the story is, got pulled me in, and here I am 20 years later, retired.
Yep.
That's the mindset, because like you said, when we're kids, I'm not going to listen to anybody. But if that's what you're hearing growing up, hey, get in, learn this, network, want to be an entrepreneur, right? Like you don't need to be a lineman, which I think is an incredible job, or a weld, whatever. But there's dude, I got a buddy right now. I don't even know when he's ever done tile work in his life. He just got a huge contract remodeling all of these apartments. He's just going in and does tile every day. Yeah. He's printing money doing it.
Yep.
He's like, I don't know. I just wanted the job. I took it because he's just a hustler. It's like, I saw a bid, I put in for it. I hired some other guys and we go in there and we're remodeling these huge apartment complexes, just him and another guy. Yep. Like, there's so much work out there.
But it's that grit and that grind, but there is the work. Like that demand isn't going to go down. And
it's going up. Nobody wants to work anymore. Never be here. Can't find anybody. No laborers. There's no laborers. We can't keep anybody on the projects.
Yep.
Well,
like for me, like that's when I found out and why I went to welding school, why I was trapping a bunch. Like I went through my first layoff in the tech world where, the rug was pulled out from under me in 2023. I was big wig at a company out of Boston, head of their machine learning product area. And then all of a sudden new executive leadership comes in and I get that 15-minute HR phone call, put on my calendar. And they're like, yep, we're reducing headcount by 15%. You're part of it. Here's a 4-week severance. And I was like, cool. I was like, I got this. I'll find a job.
At what age?
This was 2023. So this was a couple years ago.
Yeah. See, like, dude, you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
Mid-30s, and then all of a sudden you're getting a layoff.
Yeah.
Granted, the trades are...
Yeah, there's wishy-washiness there too.
But you can go pick up something else. I'm not talking entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, you're fighting every day to survive, and you don't know what the next paycheck's going to come. Trust me, live that life, and I'll never live any other way.
Yeah.
But that's where I get so when people are like, man, I'm really excited for my kid to go off to college. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
That was when she.
Well, I think that you keep asking why. And I think if you just keep poking and asking why and asking why and asking why, you'll get through the facade of the answers of like, that's what we're supposed to do. Or, we have the funds. We want our kid to be successful. If you get to the why, it's like probably because it's their own ego.
100%. That's ego, and that's just what we do.
So what we do, and it's like,
Off to
okay,
college.
do you want to say like my son's the plumber? Do you want to say my son's the kid who went to Harvard and now is a lawyer?
And I think a lot of it comes back to is for some reason we've always looked at plumbers, electricians, trash truck driver. They're always they're the B-list people of the employers or the employees of this country. I mean, we don't hype until the dirty jobs came out. We always look so negative at all of these blue collar jobs. But meanwhile, the dude sucking out the porta johns at the event downtown. Guess
he flies past you in his boat on the lake when you're sitting there on the shore and you're like, wait a second, is that the...
Yeah, granted, he's driving around a truck full of shit.
Yeah.
But guess what that dude's doing? Running out. And then you talk to the guy. I talked to a dude. That's how he started out, pumping outhouses. He was like, man, I could do this myself. Bought a couple of outhouses, put them in a venue. Dude, it just kept, every time he'd make money. Dude owns one of the largest outhouse companies. I don't remember what state he's in, like Wisconsin, somewhere weird.
Well, we've had people come bounce up our road to pump out our shitter because we're on septic up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Talk about money.
Yeah. What's that cost you to come pump out the septic? Not cheap.
No.
But that's what I'm talking about though. Like we need to start highlighting the blue collar because that's one, what makes our country operate.
Yeah.
And two, it's job security. You're not going to get some tech job where we're downsizing because of the economy or we're doing this. And granted, I know the trade people will be like, oh, dude, I'm in the trades, been laid off 10 times in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I get it, but there's ways of going in, and the trades get hit too with the economy.
Yeah, they ebb and flow too.
They ebb everything. So, but it's just one of those things though, but you're not in debt. Now, when you lose your job, you're not $100,000 in debt with a degree that you've never even touched, and then you're still making $50,000 a year because you're an entry level. But
and half your paycheck's going to pay that debt off, and that interest just keeps climbing.
It's such
the math
fascinating. The math, that's exactly it. The math does not math when you are trying to force your children to go to college instead of starting off their life in a career or just a trade or just a skill.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was pre-boomers or what, but like why that is such a thing. And it is, you're not going to college? Why would you not go to college? And my eye like starts twitching when I hear people like asking my daughter this, and she's looking at me like, these people are absolute idiots. Like, why? And that's what I tell people, like, wait, she's just gonna work for you?
Yeah.
And I literally look back and I'm like, yes. And I have this conversation probably once a week with somebody like, oh, what's your daughter doing? I'm like, working for me. She's just gonna keep doing that? Is she gonna go to college to get a marketing degree or an editing degree when she's doing it in high school? And now, what you mean to tell me this college professor is going to sit here and be able to, the first year or two while she's wasting her life, going to tell her how to do this?
Was never been on a podcast.
Or has ever run a podcast? Yeah. You're taking business classes from a professor that's never owned a fucking business? Make that make sense?
It doesn't. You can't.
College to me is one of the biggest facades. It's one of the biggest scams that this country has fallen for.
Yes. And I feel like, so I wrote a book on all of this.
Okay.
And it's called The Trade Gap, and it covers the history of all that. But the thing that I haven't been able to reconcile is as I was interviewing people for the book, talking to tradesmen, talking to college professors, understanding the history of how we got here, because we actually started our country heavy with trade education.
Yes.
Like in the early 1900s, there was a big push, obviously, for ag, to fund people to go.
Everything else.
And that really went all the way up through like when the boomers were in high school. Like you talk to any boomer, they did metal shop, they did wood shop. I grew up in a semi-urban rural area, and there was no shop.
Nope.
There was no option for it.
Nope.
And then, the Obama, like No Child Left Behind Act doubled down on that and pulled more funding from that to make sure that everything was funneling into teachers getting extra performance incentives for getting SAT scores up.
Yes.
So like
standardized testing.
Yep. And
you're telling me every kid sitting in that class needs to be on the same standard?
yep. But it's all pushing for the higher education. And then that becomes a racket. But like the point of all that to say, like what I haven't reconciled in my own mind is you see more like on, if you tune into the news or Twitter, like people are talking about it, like whether it's like going to the trades or like college is the biggest scam in the world. You see articles, but then it doesn't seem to have ebbed the flow of the push. And it might be because like my own algorithm or whatever is like more prone to that, where I'm like, oh yeah, people are getting it now.
Nope.
Don't see it.
Did you see them on, I'm $100,000 in debt and I can't even get a job? Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. Well, I boohooed the same way. Like, you know, you feel like a little bit like the wool was pulled over your eyes, right?
I wonder how many, and I'm not, okay, so I know this was like a college bash of this part of this podcast. It's not that I'm anti-college.
Yeah.
If you are dead set, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a veterinarian, I need an engineering degree, I need a tech degree to get into this. I get that.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Let's take that, narrow that down to this little sliver of pie.
Yep.
And then from that little sliver of pie, how many of those people are actually going to use that degree and chase their dreams, right? So that's even a smaller sliver. Then you have the rest of the pile, all these people that are in debt, and they're like, you hear it every day. Oh, I've never even used my degree. I've never used my degree. I don't know. Now all these giant companies, these tech, everybody's lowering their degree standards.
Yeah.
Just shows that these kids are coming out of college. And I watched those street interviews where they just ask basic American questions. Nothing, no brain busters, or even the
Where's
ones
the country of Louisiana? Is it in the United States?
Bro, you're telling me you're going to pay for your kid to go off so they can fuck off for the first 2 years, party, do whatever they want to do. Cool. I get it. Experience. It's about the life and experiencing it. Or you can help groom your kids to where they're starting a business in high school. So when they graduate, now they have the time. That's why it's this whole divide the family thing when kids are grown. And it's another thing that comes along with college. Where's she off to? When's she leaving? I'm like, why does she have to leave?
Yeah.
Why do I need to? You're 18 now. Good luck. They're not just because you have an 18 person. Now you're ready.
Yeah. No, some are.
Oh, dude, I don't want to say I was ready. I was ready to get out, but I don't know if I was ready for the world, but obviously you don't have an option. Military, you're ready.
Yeah.
You get on those yellow footprints, but it's just one of those things. Like, why are we shoving our kids out of the home? Stay here, provide to if you're going to be here, provide to the family.
Yeah.
Look at all the cultures around the world, all the cultures. Dude, we sold our house to 3 generations from India, our last house. 3 generations bought our house so they could all live under one roof. Look at these Mexican families. You see them. There'll be 15 people in a home. All of them provide. All of them are working. Everybody's doing something to help contribute to the family. But here in Americans, 18 now, good luck, kid. Good luck. You got to go to college. Go get yourself in debt. Figure it out.
Well, full circle. My first exposure to that style of living was in Russia. Because, multiple generations lived together.
Yes.
So like in a little apartment buildings, which that was the first time I could see like, oh, you can live with a lot of people in a small space.
Yep.
And, it's not always comfortable, but like I kind of resented it at the time because like I had that American mentality of like 18 out, you're going to be successful. You're going to have all this money. You're going to be able to get your own spot. And like, that's the measure of success.
Yep.
And I saw that. And now you're saying all this, and maybe again, like you said, we're kind of becoming a little bit like Crunchy-esque as we millennials age.
Yeah.
But like my parents now have a compound with their parents who are in their 90s. We want to move my parents out here. We want my wife's parents to move in. Like that communal aspect that we have just completely demolished in the American society.
Absolutely.
Like you see bits and bobs of it coming back in the culture now, I think, where people are starting to say like, financially that makes more sense because, it's just wild to afford anything right now. But at the same time, like we're starting to like, I think maybe collectively see that we push for a lot of the wrong things.
Well, my thing is
chasing the wrong carrot.
Absolutely. Because our parents got fed this whole lie from their parents. Right. So then we sit here and we're like, we want to boomers ruin this. They have all the businesses. They ruin the housing. Like we blame everything on the Gen X and then the boomers.
Yep.
But here we are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And we want to bitch and complain. That's why my wife and I were like, oh no, we're going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
We're going to do this instead. You know what, kids, stay here as long as you're contributing to the family. It's not a problem. There's no drama. I have my rules. This is my house. I still have rules.
Yep.
Respect the rules, contribute to the family, pick up why? Save your money.
Yeah.
Put it away. So when that time comes and you want to start your life, you have a nest egg because you've been working, you've been providing, you've been saving.
It's a novel idea, right?
I don't see why that's such a bad thing, but instead, college. When's she out? Where's she going? When's she gonna leave? Because guess what? Now you just put them into the world. Now they're paying their own taxes. Now they have their own insurance. Now they have their own rent or mortgage. Now they have their own lease. So it's just another way for our governments to be able to start sucking off of these. Once you start looking at yourself as just a battery bank for the government to provide them everything they need, you're like, oh no, I'm not giving you my kids. Why do I have to call the state and notify them when my daughter turns 18? Why do I need to do that? I'm not fucking letting anybody know.
I need a new battery charger.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just, why do they need to keep track of when my kid's out of the house? Why do they need to be? That's just why. Why does it have to be this way? And we just go on with it.
Maybe that's why they're building on the data centers.
I know, right? And track everything. It's just, I don't know, dude. It's just one of those things. It's how my mind works. I sit here and people are probably like, yeah, bro, we get it. But do you?
I don't.
Now, if your kid's getting a full ride scholarship, going to go play ball, go be a doctor, cool, whatever. If it's your college, but if you're just an average American and you're pushing your kid to go get their own debt because you can't afford their college, way to fuck your child's life up straight out the gate on their own life. Like that's just how I look at it.
What is it like with FAFSA? Like I think it can be a situation like where the parent does it with, I mean, I might be just completely making stuff up here, but like, I do know there's like elements of like, the co-signers of these loans, these FAFSA loans for college, like there's very limited criteria to like, again,
ruin your life.
Get a $150,000, 28% loan.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't drink,
Yeah.
Can't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. You're not old enough to make any decision in this country, but we could let you get $100,000 in debt. Make that make sense. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit now that I'm done ranting about college. You got into trapping and doing all kinds of stuff. So you went from tech, chasing the dream of your life, thought you were going to be a spook in the CIA. Nothing worked out. Now you're like a state federal trapper here in Idaho.
Yeah.
How the hell did that come about?
So when I moved, went through the divorce, came out here, moved up to Idaho, town of 35 people, no grocery store, no gas station. Cabin backs up to a bunch of national forest land, beautiful up there. And, I was doing like the new hunter kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like relative new hunter. Like, what does Cam Hanes do? I think I'll do a bunch of push-ups.
Oh God.
And shoot a bunch of like, take it for what it's worth. I mean, like, how it is. Like, fucking roast me.
What
Don't
camo
care.
do you wear? Please tell me it's not First Light.
It wasn't First Light.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But no. Anyways,
it was First Light.
It wasn't First Light. Okay. I promise you. It's you. Still same. PE back, whatever.
Yeah.
Was getting into it, like doing all that stuff. Like I thought that's what would matter. And of course, Atlanta to a degree, like there's a bunch of old timers up there.
Oh yeah.
And then like one of them was like, "What the fuck are you doing all those push-ups?" I'm like, "Well, I'm getting ready for elk season, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Okay, you gonna push an elk over?" I'm like, "No, I just want to be in shape so I can get up in the mountain, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Do you really want to be a better hunter?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. Tell me, sensei." He's like, "Why are you not trapping? There's so many trapping opportunities in Idaho. You're here. Like there's year-round trapping opportunities. And if you want to be a better hunter, you should trap." And in my head, I still had like the caricature of like, the toothy trap from the cartoons that would,
for sure,
cause, I had no idea what trapping was.
Breaks her legs, crushes her feet.
Yeah, it's a torture device.
Yep.
No clue. So then I got curious and I was like, what is this? And so I went down that path and like it has fully taken me as far as like what I like to do in the woods as a recreational activity. Like hunting's great. Done a lot of hunting, a bunch of archery, muzzleloader, rifle, whatever. Done it all that you can do in Idaho for the most part. And it's great. Do it every year, fill our freezers. But the trapping is like what really got me. And it's because I sucked so bad at it.
It'll humble you.
Oh man. Like you think about it, like When you're not a trapper, you're like, oh, yeah, you indiscriminately put a trap out and you're going to catch a poor animal. Like, yeah, what's hard about that? That shit takes work.
Well, you're trying to get this animal that lives on a mountain range,
3,000 acres of whatever,
to step on a pan that's
That
2
big.
inches in diameter, straight on that.
Yep.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. And that is a difficult task.
Yep. Especially when it comes to wolves. How
Boy.
smart. Okay, let's. You want to talk about a learning curve? Let's talk wolves. How does that even happen? Because wolves are I think one of the, if not the smartest predator that we have in this country. I mean, how
100%.
they think, how they will come in around you. They will sit and watch for hours.
Sensitivity, like, it's insane.
One thing is off in that animal's domain and they're gone.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, the wolf trappers, and I'm not a good wolf trapper.
How many have you trapped so far?
I think 2
Okay.
out of like 5 years.
Okay.
So like not great. I've
That's
had better.
honestly, that's a win for me.
I've had better luck hunting wolves than I have trapping wolves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, we're up there all the time. I have
Yeah.
wolves on camera 400 yards out of our back door.
Oh, that's
Like,
nice.
Yeah. So like we got like 5 packs that are just on rotation up there. So we've got a lot of wolves. But you know, I went on the gamut. So I started with fox because fox is year round here in Idaho.
Yep.
So, you know, I went and got my little foothold trap and I thought this was going to be the easiest thing in the world. And I write about it in my book, Turning Feral, but I had like this month-long battle with a fox, which was the first critter I
Mhm.
trapped, and like bang up like every single time. I'd be on YouTube, like, how's this dirt hole set work? You know, I'd have like the cotton gloves. I'd be descenting everything.
Sifting everything.
And without fail, that fucking fox would somehow find my trap, dig it up, and shit on it. For a
Yep.
month.
Mhm.
And this fox and I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And finally I did connect. And like that was like the most sad and like proud moment of my life.
You were the dog that caught the car.
Yeah, you catch up, you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, in trapping, that's a whole different learning curve in and of itself. But like it was canines what I started with.
Yep.
And then it kind of went to coyotes. Also very smart.
Did you get any beavers up there? There's a lot of beavers on those little streams. and
Baby,
stuff.
if you
There's
want to
some-
call me any kind of trapper, I'm a beaver trapper, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot up there. Because we used to hunt. There's the moose. I hunted a lot. The moose up there, and there's so many of those little beaver.
Yeah.
You know how they. What's really cool about beaver, not a lot of people know, is how generations will work themselves up mountains.
Yep.
So you could be at like 8,000 foot, and there's a giant beaver lodge, and everything's swamped off. You're like, what? And I ended up doing some research how they were dropping beavers out of airplanes in these boxes.
Yeah, like up in the Frank Church.
Yeah, just literally a parachute and a wooden crate, just hucking
Hoping
beavers
for the best.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why it helps start those areas.
But I started in canines and then I moved to water trapping, and like water trapping is my favorite, like
Oh, yeah.
otters and beaver, because it's like a time machine. Like I tell anybody, if you ever want to jump in a time machine, go beaver trap, otter trap somewhere up in the mountains, put on some waders, put some conibears out, and just have a blast.
Yeah.
Like it's great. So like we do a lot of beaver trapping up there. This past week we were up and there's a lodge that I was kind of playing with, and I had my kids out there and we sat there and wait, and the little kits came out.
Yeah.
So I got to watch little baby beavers playing around and all that stuff. And it's an irony, and I think a lot of people don't get that with trapping. It's like, man, it's made me love animals more than anything else.
That's what a lot of people don't understand. And I have a really cool audience. Like our listeners we actually don't really get much hate because I let people explain to it, because we've grown up in a world where Bambi and every Disney movie, The Hunter's the Bad, Elmer Fudd, all that shit. And when I try to talk to these anti-hunters and things like that, or just animal rights activists, they don't realize how many similarities that we have, even though we're like killing the animal, right? That's our one divide. But you don't realize when you get into these sports of hunting, trapping, fishing, whatever, you learn everything about this animal, their behaviors, their patterns, their food, the seasons, how they switch, the rut, whatever it may be. But then you go talk to these animal rights activists. They can't tell you anything about the animal. They can only tell you that they love the animal.
Yep.
But they want to protect the animal, but they don't know why they want to protect the animal, because it's inhumane. But it's like, okay, well, I'm not out here torturing shit. Like, I'm not sadistic. I watch people do inhumane shit on the mountain. It pisses me off. I think youth seasons are some of the worst things that we have as far as hunters, because I've watched a youth season when I was guiding in a state. I'm out there 3 weeks prior. Youth season opens up. Everything shuts down. Do the week after. This is deer after deer with their jaws blown off. I'm driving around shooting deer with clients and just shooting them and scooting because they're just blown off. I'm calling fish and game. Oh, we can't do anything about it. I'm not going to let an animal suffer. Yeah. So it's like that to me, I'm like, this doesn't make sense because it's like, oh, it's just does, shoot them in the face, and then we're making shitty shots because it's such a small target. Yeah. So like that stuff pisses me off as a hunter that I'm out here having to like put down these animals with, but that's the hunters doing it. So it's you have that divide.
There is a balance, and like that's where like you do have people who just
sadistic.
You go back to that same thing about the kids conversation we had earlier. There's fucked up people in the world, but like the people who are doing it and passionate about it. I include myself in that. Like you do learn everything about them. And then like, to your point, these animal rights activists, they don't understand, like if you have too many beavers in an area, first there's like the damage to property, to roads. And we have a big problem up there with, flooding roads.
For sure.
And, who's taking care of our roads but us?
Yeah.
So there's that. And then like the fighting, like if you find a beaver in a crowded area and you look at their tail, there's so many chunks missing out of it where they're just fighting. There's too many beavers.
Yep.
And you got to like thin it out a little bit.
For sure.
Otherwise it's a problem. And that goes for pretty much any species except for wolves because they just, spread cancer.
Yeah. We're bears is our thing, right? Like we are a bear family. Dude, behind that bar, there's a stack of bear hides. Yep. And we get so much shit on it. But I'm like, tell me one thing about this animal. You want death on my children. You wish death on me and my kids get cancer and die horrible lives. All the vile shit that antis say, right?
Yep.
Tell me one thing about this animal. Tell me one fact about this animal.
All black bears are black. They don't have color face, do they?
Right? Oh, you're killing. Okay, well, this is a giant boar. And this is a great example. My wife, I had this sow that was coming in. She had 4 or 5 cubs. Most cubs I've ever seen with this sow. Every single cub was a different color. And she was a different color. So it was really cool. She was black, and then it was like cinnamons, chocolates, blondes, browns. I mean, it had a little bit of everything. Rut starts kicking off for the bears. She comes in on trail cam, missing a cub. Cub's missing. I'm like, ooh, big boars in the area.
Yep.
A couple days later, she strolls through. She's down another cub. I'm like, oh, okay, babe, we got to go. There's a big boar in here. We go in, dude, like clock. This big storm was rolling in because I know these animals are going to lay there through this rain. There's going to be a break in the system. I'm looking at Doppler. I'm like, we're going to kill this bear in between these storms. And my wife's like, how do you know? I'm like, just let's go. Get up there, piss and rain. Dude, just torrential. Birds are chirping, sun's out, steam's coming off the mountain. Boom, here comes this boar. Steps because they're going to get up, they're going to shake off, get the water off them. They want to go get a feed, and they're going to do whatever they got to do. Do we hammer this bear? Crucified over it. I'm like, this thing is literally killing cubs just so we could send that sow back in the heat, but you want to protect the babies, but then the boar is killing the babies, but I'm sitting here being selective, not killing sow.
Yep.
Or the cubs, which is legal. Not legal to kill a sow with cubs, but you can kill the cubs. Make sense. Which mind-boggling. As a hunter, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. But we kill this giant boar that's in here killing all these cubs in this valley or this canyon. And I'm like, I'm the bad guy because they can't see. Hey, this boar is in here pursuing this sow, and he's picking off her cubs whenever he gets an opportunity. We take him out of the gene pool. Guess what? Now these cubs have a better chance of living. She's going to make it through the season. She's going to be healthy to go in the heat, get bred again when she kicks those cubs. People don't realize that, right? It's just like deer. Like I'm not out here just shooting anything to shoot it. We're trying to pick the oldest, most mature deer, take it off the mountain. And then if we're in a doe-only unit, guess what? There's 120 does standing in this field. Like we need to start thinning these numbers out. I wish we could sit down with some of these. I would love to have an like a animal rights activist on the show. I would love to have a conversation with them just to see where we relate and don't relate, because I don't think cattle should be in these farms where they're standing in sludge their whole entire life, or veal locked in these little cages, or these chickens that are just in the most
get pumped with hormones and then about to die.
The most disgusting, unsanitary living conditions. That's cruelty to me, to animals.
Yeah.
But you have a problem that I'm going out on the mountains getting a free range, doing this where that animal has just as much chance of making it as I get a shot off. Most free range, free chase opportunity you can do. I'm not going to say I'm going to team up with them, but I understand like that. Yeah. Do I want these pigs hanging upside down as they're alive, going down these conveyor belts as they're getting their throats slit? No, I can't. I'm not supporting that. Yeah. So cool. I'm not out here to torture animals. I'm not trying to be sadistic with this stuff, but it's my God-given right, and I'm going to provide for my family. And if I want to bring home non-hormone, non-GMO, non-everything else that they're poisoning us with, I should have that right to do it. But
I think there's a lot of crunchy people and folks that even might be on that like line of anti-hunting, anti-trapping. There's a convergence that I think is happening. Like you're never going to have like, you have the sadistic hunter or trapper who's out there
ruin it for everybody.
And then same on the other end of the spectrum, like someone who's like, you should never harm any animal for any reason. That's fine. They'll stay on those polar opposites that give us the gravity between. But I do think in between, like there's starting to be more of a convergence because you see the factory farming stuff and you go to an anti who's like, I hate factory farming. And they're like, well, I still like meat and I want to give fair chase and I want to be able to go and experience the land and take the animal myself. Like, and then you could argue about weapons and stuff like that but nonetheless, like I do think there's a bit of a convergence there. Slowly.
I just think a lot of it is just, I don't want to say propaganda from our whole entire lives growing up, but every movie, every cartoon, we're always the hillbillies, the retards in flannels and shooting our shotgun, whatever it is, right? That's the whole entire way that
it's the
hunters,
motif.
That's how we've always just been pictured in everything. And so I think a lot of people just have that image, but when you talk to them, you're like, oh, absolutely not. I know a lot of people that were vegan or anti-hunters because of animal cruelty, but then they got into hunting and they're like, oh, this is nothing that I thought. Yeah. This is nothing how I pictured it. To go out, and a lot of them are like very traditional and they want which is, dude, great, good on you. I'm trying to put meat in the freezer. Yeah. I'm not just going for a hike. So like, there's a difference, but there is this get together. And that's why I love when I, not the internet, I don't entertain the internet, which thank God with the algorithms now, I really don't get it as much anymore, but I come across people and they want to challenge and I'm just like, man, like, cool. I agree. And they'll start, we shouldn't be I'm like, yes. Like I'm a hunter. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm not a rancher and even granted, I have buddies that have, I got a good friend of mine. He's one of the oldest cattle operations in the state of Oregon. How they run their operations all free range all summer. They bring the cattle out of the range down to the range. That I could get behind all day, but these like to stick them in cages,
the Purdue factories.
I can't support that. And then you just go to the store. That's why I can't argue with it. I don't support it. It's inhumane. It's torture that these poor animals have to live in the shittiest living conditions just to be slaughtered in a horrible way and then slapped in a saran wrap and on a piece of plastic and put in a grocery store. We buy our beef and all that stuff too. I get it, but I try to do our best to eat as healthy as possible. And my only option right now in this free given country we're in is to be able to go and.
Well, that's the same thing. Like last night, we still hunt at the grocery store sometimes. But we still pulled bear backstrap out of the freezer last night.
Yep.
And the kids like it. And that's the thing too, like when you're educating kids, like, it was funny. My 5-year-old, like I said, we're taking her to a private school. She was actually doing like a little pre-kindergarten camp this week to kind of get used to it, like learn how to walk in the hall, that kind of stuff. And they were doing like a little game where they were putting like animals to like mammals or animals to reptiles, So she's like, Dad, they gave me a pack of wolves and I went and put it on the mammals. And I'm like, my daddy hunts wolves. And, in the classroom, I'm like, what was that reaction? They're like, no one said anything. So who knows?
Well, you're in Idaho. So
yeah, true.
Well, who knows anymore with how many people are out of states moving here, but also at the same time, when your kids are raised in that environment, in that world, the amount of respect.
Yes.
I've actually, great example. Her and we did a hunt. I was guiding. She actually had an antelope hunt. We shot first or second day. She kills her antelope. My buddy has a big elk hunt. He has a client. He's like, dude, we're on the next mountain range over. He's like, dude, come here. The elk are ripping. It was in October. They were still bugling like crazy. I don't think she had heard elk bugle like that yet. So I was like, hey, we're gonna go over here for a few days. So I end up helping guide. Dude, this dude shoots this elk. I want to say it was like 12 or 13 different times. She's filming. This dude just hands her camera and giant. She didn't even know. I was just like, just follow me. Shut up. Stay behind me. You're coming to work with me today. And we were on him. And dude, this dude shooting. He's just laughing, reloading. And this thing's just like gasping and its legs hanging. And wasn't raised in that environment. He was not raised as a child in this environment. He's just a guy now that got into it. So there's this respect that you could always tell people that get into it later on because and not for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people are immediately respect the animal because they know, but some people have never really had to work. When your kid's packing a bear out at 2:00 in the morning, or 4 miles from a truck, and you got an elk and hind legs and shit strung everywhere, and you're trying to figure out, and your kids are talking, and you're okay. Then I don't know how the fuck we're gonna get to the truck.
Yep.
You're processing everything. There's this level of respect, and then your kids hiking in, spending miles on the mountain, days. I mean, dude, she sat for. I think we shot her last bear. We sat for 19 days or 20 days straight. I think we passed 16 bears that spring.
Yep.
You want to talk about life lessons? I mean.
Well, that's why I take my kids out on the trap. Like my daughter loves going beaver trapping with me.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. I can put little waders on it. You know, same thing. And like when we deer hunt, my good buddy I was telling you about that at the beginning of the podcast, but like we'll go, and whether I shoot a deer or an elk or he shoots a deer or an elk, we get all our kids together and we process it together.
Yep.
You know, and they're cutting it, and like they know, and it's sometimes it's laughable when you see, especially like a 5-year-old, how understanding they are of life and death. And we've never had like life and death conversations, but it's just been examples.
Yep.
Like there are, you know, there's a time when you go and, you know, we're respectful, and, you know, they understand that it's food, but they also understand, like they will sit there and play with an ant and be like, this is the cutest little ant, and then put it back, or a bumblebee or whatever it is. Like they have such a respect for life because they know it's fleeting in a lot of cases, but they understand that there's a difference.
Well, the respect that comes with processing your own food too. When you watch your kid, you have a friend over, oh, you want to, this is antelope. Yeah. I process, it's this sense of joy because now you have this little child, if they shot or not, they're with you on that process. You get it to the truck, you get it home, you're processing this thing. They're helping you. Even if I do that, when they were little, I'd just give them a chunk of meat. It was like a hawk off an antelope. Cut all this silver skin, even though it was the worst thing, but it just keeps them busy. And you give them this little knife. Now they're learning knife handling skills. They learn the proper care and refrigerated, freezing, everything that with processing your meat, grinding it. There's this whole, dude, even rut. Your kids are learning about sex from nature. We're talking about what's rut. Okay, this is how it works.
You're not having to worry about some educator with a film when they're 8 or 9.
Well, but then if they're raised in this environment, when it comes to sex, it's like, oh, it's nothing. It's not this little, oh, it's embarrassing, or they're really curious. Like, yeah, it's the same exact thing. And then when the boys come around, like, yeah, these boys are in rut now, 13, 14, they're going to rut. And then they know what you're talking about because they've watched these seasons. They've been able to learn so many life skills, from the pride in processing the meat to being able to feed their friends when they're over, to the birds and the bees. There's so many life lessons that come out of having kids raised in the outdoors. And it doesn't have to be hunting. I mean, dude, you could do fish, you could do trapping, whatever it may be, fly fishing, whatever you're into to get it outdoors. Just get your kids out there and watch the respect that comes. They're not gonna be littering. They're not trashing shit and tagging things and tearing stuff up. Granted, teenage boys, I get they go through little phases, but they're learned. They learn all of that from just being out there with their parents, and it gives that kid so much more of an edge in life, I feel, because they have not just these books and they sat in a classroom and learned about it. They get to watch, they get to see the seasons and the changes and the habits,
disappointment
and the letdown, and hiking for days to hike your ass back to the truck empty-handed, and it was a long drive home. That's why I think hunting is such an incredible thing for kids, or just, I don't want to say hunting, outdoors is an incredible opportunity for kids. Combat sports, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, incredible thing in teaching life skills. Like, there's certain things that I feel we have lost as far as a country of getting our kids into, because technology, everybody's busy, everybody's buried in our phones, got to work, sorry, got to work. So get them out there, watch the lessons that they've learned.
My daughter comes with me to jiu-jitsu, noon every day, and then she's not always doing it. She'll just sit on the side, but then she'll go and attack her brother. And jiu-jitsu, she doesn't really know anything yet, but
just watching.
Yeah.
And that's where I just want to say this for the dads that are getting your kids into hunting, even no matter whatever age it is. Don't worry about the animal. Don't worry about the rack. Don't worry about the size or the age. Have fun.
Yeah.
Have as much fun as you can. When you're walking through the woods, you see this is moose poop. Now it's dry. It's kindling. This is a perfect fire starter. You see it's all bark. You see these little bark branches, how all the bark shoot off it. Moose are in here. You see these ferns. These are from beavers damming up. We're going to go find the beaver lodge now. See this rub. Okay, this is the signs we're looking for. There's so many, and even if you don't know, your kids don't know.
Yeah.
just bullshit them and make something up and be like, look at this rock. This is from Native Americans. They're not going to know until they're a little bit older. Be like, Dad was bullshitting us all these years.
Well, on my trapping podcast, I always talk to folks and the guys with kids, especially adult kids. I'm like, what have you done with your kids outside that you really enjoy? And one of them, like Fred Eichler, I talked with him, and one of the things that I took from him that I really like. So I got these 3D printed traps, so my kids know how to set footholds, conibears, so they have their own. But we'll play, and I'll be like, go make a set outside when we're at the cabin. And they'll try to like trick me and like make it invisible.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's fun for them. And they'll do that with each other.
And they're not on an iPad.
They're not on an iPad. Well, we don't, have any of that at the cabin anyways, but the same thing. And then like we're teaching them plants and like berries. They're like, oh, these are Oregon grapes. And even though they're bitter as all hell, they'll be,
yeah,
they'll have fun with it. And they're like, they have this confidence of like, we can figure this out. And we talk to them about that. I'm like, look, if you're out here and you get stuck with your brother and sister, you need to know these things. Like you're responsible for them at that point, essentially, and like teaching them. And then like, we'll peel back when we're out like on a hike or something. And it's fun to watch like your older kids or even the younger kids like band together and, encourage each other or do these little things. And they do it naturally because we're constantly encouraging and pushing it. But it's so fun to sit back and watch. Like, we might be 10 yards back, but they think we're miles away.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And
tuck behind a tree real quick and just watch.
Oh man.
I don't know how many times she'd be in front of me leading the way and just whoop, she'd turn around and realize, Dad, start freaking out. But those are just those fun things, man. Hearing mountain lions screaming, listen to a bull elk bark because they caught your scent and they're like, what is that? Like they're so, God, get your kids outside. It doesn't, and you don't have to be a hunting family. You don't have to know anything. I help a lot with resident dads. I do a lot of hunting father-son clinics or daughter clinics. Yep. And a lot of guys they hit me up and like, man, I wasn't raised this. I don't know how to get it going. And I'm like, dude, let's just go. Just go. If you can't come with me, just go. Just get a tag, get a doe tag, throw a rifle on your back, go for a hike with your kid. Don't break their dicks off walking all day where everybody's got blisters and they're miserable. Just go for a little stroll. Yep. Just go for a little stroll. Hey, we're going for a little walk. Let's go. Yep. And before you know it, dude, it'll line up. You get a shot off. Even if you miss the adrenaline peak, you're like, oh shit, just make it fun.
Well, it was like the other day we do that too, like out back, where we're at, and deer aren't skittish right now at all. Yeah. We like pretty much belly crawled up to a little buck. He didn't care about us, but like 15 yards, and our kids were like, this is awesome. We're sitting there like slowly crawling and just getting close, and like those experiences, like not hunting, just being around animals. Or we'll go out and we'll be like, just be quiet, which is hard for our kids, especially my boy. But he'll sit there and be quiet. And then I'll be like, what's that noise? Squirrel. What's that noise? Squirrel. Same thing.
Still a squirrel.
Still a squirrel. But, those things are exciting, or like a bird or anything else. Or we have some owls that kind of hang out outside and they're like, Hootie's back.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm so glad our kids were able to be raised in that world. I mean, dude, she drew a hammered deer tag this year, and my little one's got a hammered bull tag this year. Nice. So we're going to have a fun September, October. But it's just going out and being able to watch. Dude, wait till the moment where your kid's on the gun and you're able to just give them their dope and they're dialing and they're doing everything. I don't know how many times I'm like, ranging, get on the gun. You see it? You see it? Like, like you're just like, oh shit, this is going to happen. You're doing everything for them. And then they get the shot and, that's like their first little evolution of it. And then there's going to come a time where I'm just like, hey, 860. And she's just dialing, see impact. You're like, fuck it. We were last year, her little sis is in competition with everything. And little sis already had shot her does. And so she comes, we do a Thanksgiving at my buddy's. And little one's like, mine are bigger than Sissy's. And she shot a buck and she's like, I got a buck and Sissy didn't, not realizing that she held like 2 Oregon state records on a deer and turkey. And so we're sitting there, we're just glassing and we're kind of bullshitting. And we're behind the truck and we're on like a little vantage looking in this, over this like valley bottom. And this doe comes running up and she just grabs the gun and the little one's like, Sissy can't shoot that. She's not laying down. And dude, she just pulls a rifle up. This doe's running. She
offhand.
Just hammers this thing. And little sis is like looks up, like, don't forget who your sister is. Like, she was like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, you don't know what your sister's
Got
been
Andy
through with me. I'm
Oakley
like,
over here.
you get the trained version of me. You have no idea the pressure I put on your sister to shoot some shit. I learned a lot of lessons in the early days. Oh, my bad. There's going to be some therapy down the road from those early hunting days. But it was just like, it was just one of those like, she could do that. But to watch your daughter evolve, you know, to the day where she's just like racks around offhand, dumps this dough run. I'm like it's all paid off.
Yeah,
And then they have little
that's the
sister
worth.
just idolizing like, like she didn't even know what to say. And then my buddy's with her. He's like, you have no idea what your sister's done on this place. And so it's cool to be able to see that evolution, you know. One day it comes and they don't need you anymore, but you know,
I'm soaking it in right now. I'm like you said, like, I know you had a lot of hard lessons, and I'm blessed with when and how I met my wife that I've had children with.
Yep.
She's an amazing woman. She's an outdoors woman. Like, obviously she followed me up to Atlanta.
Good.
And like, I'm soaking it in, and I'm in such a privileged place to be able to be in all the lessons I've learned from all the wild shit.
Yep.
To now.
Yep.
It's great.
That's why I think it's such an advantage. I love being a younger dad because obviously now all my buddies have little kids. Yeah. And so I'm like,
sucker.
But at the same time, being an older if I was in my mid 30s having children or early 30s, I was so much of a different person. Just attitude and everything. It's just, I don't know, but it's such is life, you know.
You can't choose.
You can't choose. I didn't want any kids to begin with.
Yeah, me either. But look at us now.
Greatest gift. Yeah, right. Who would have thought? So that's why I look at my wife. It wasn't too long ago. I got snipped, and it was such a horrible experience. Like
Me too.
I had this horrible phobia of getting snipped in the first place. Not for the pain wise. I thought it was gonna like dilute flow. Like
not
trying to get it to me. So I had this like, I'm not trying to damage. I love what's going on. Yeah. And everyone's like, no, dude, it's not going to affect anything. I'm like, all right. So my wife finally talks me into it. I'm like, we had a scare. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So I go get snipped, dude. The dude didn't numb me. And I ended up getting stung on my nuts with a bee. Dude, this is, okay. I'm going to tell this story. My vasectomy story. I'm all signed up, ready to get snipped. I'm a little nervous because I don't want to, dude,
you hear all the stories.
Yeah, and I have some buddies that are just, dude, they're
gonna turn into melons,
purple cantaloupe, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, why mess with? Why it's not broken? Don't fix it. So it's spring. My bees are ripping. I got beehives, and I'm like, oh shit, I can't. And so I post on Instagram, going to get snipped later, dude. I had hundreds of dudes.
Don't do it.
No. Don't do anything once you get snipped, bro. I thought I was good a week out, mowed the lawn, ended up back in the hospital. Dude lifted my kid up after 5 days, ended up hundreds of messages. Dude's like, I know you. I've watched you for years. You're going to fuck this up. Just lay there for a week, bro. Whatever the doctor tells you, do it, which thank God, because I was that guy. So I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, shit, I can't feed my bees for at least a week because my hives are heavy and I don't have medium, so I got deep boxes. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go feed the bees. Let's go straight there. I'm in just black basketball shorts, right? And these hives are just chill, so I could open my hives, no problem. Feed my bees really quick, close up the hive. All of a sudden, I could feel it in my shorts, and I freeze. I'm like, okay. I'm just gonna rip my shorts off. The second I freeze, dude, nails me right on my right nut. Rip my shorts off, rip this bee off my nuts. I run in the house. The wife's on the phone. I'm like, she's literally in a meeting. I'm like, I pull my shorts out. I'm like, I just got stung. She's like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, how? How did you get stung? So she calls the doctor's office. They're like, yeah, doctor says it's fine. Like, bring them in. They're all laughing. So we get there and they're all giggling and laughing at me because I'm the dude with this bee sting. Literally 30 minutes before I'm walking out for my vasectomy, I get stung in my nuts by a bee. Doctor's this old like Navy vet. I actually want to get him on the podcast. So I'm laying there. It's such an invasive. They got your shit taped to your stomach. They got the little cloth.
You got two lights. You got stirrups.
I got my wife on one side, the doctor on the other, having a full conversation.
Your wife went with you? I got sent solo.
Oh, she was like, I'm watching this. So they're having this full conversation. I'm laying there with like exposed to the world, taped to my stomach. I'm like, this is so awkward. So he starts cutting me. He's like, all right, let's do this. And he numbs me up. And I'm like, all right, cool. That kind of sucked, whatever. So he starts cutting. And I pride myself on like a really high pain tolerance. I put myself through some shit.
Yep.
Dude, I'm feeling this. And I'm laying there, I'm like, ah. He's like, you gotta stop moving. I'm like, bro, I can feel this. He's like, no, yeah, it's just a pinch. I'm like, this is more than a pinch. It's just,
you can feel the scalpel.
It is burning, dude, like hot burning. And I'm like, and I jerk like really hard. And he looks at me, he's like, you could feel this? I'm like, yeah, bro, I've been telling you this. And he pinches me and he's like, oh, you should be able to feel that. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I can feel this. And he pinches my left nut. He's like, I'm like, nothing. And he's like, switch me spots. And so he tells me, I'm like, switch you spots. So he sticks me like 4 more times, renumbs you, like, let's go to the left side. That was pretty numb. Dude, I felt him cutting into me for the first initial, like, however many of these that he did. Horrible, bro. You want chills sent through your body? Oh, my.
That sent me chills because I had a perfectly fine numbed experience. And it wasn't like overwhelming, but I was like, I can't imagine that unnumbed.
Oh, God, dude. It was chills. Like, just god awful. Getting cut open and not being numb. It was rough. But I got home and I lay there. I didn't touch nothing for however long they recommended.
Well, I messed up too because I people told me that, and my wife went away on like a girls' weekend trip, 2 days after, and we had kids in cribs. We didn't have any bunk beds, so I lifted. I didn't get like the purple cantaloupe problem, but like I had nerve pain there for about 1.5 years.
No kidding.
Like it's really up until pretty recently that, I'll be occasionally my wife like, hey, you still hurting down there? Like it'd be like consistent nerve pain. And I went back to the urologist and they're like, yeah, sometimes like it happens. Like it's rare, but you get phantom nerve pain. It felt like I got kicked in the nuts.
Oh, damn.
And it would just be like, it was consistent for like the first 6 months. Like I just kind of constantly had that like twisted stomach feeling.
Yeah.
And then it would be like a month on, month off. And then it started
interesting.
going down. And now I don't, doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
but
I'm good. And then I think it was like maybe 8 months to a year later, I get this ick, or not an ick, I get an itch. And I was like, man, I feel I would crush the dad game right now. My wife looks at me, she's like, oh, don't even. I think I got snipped. We're blessed, and it is what it is. But yeah, I finally feel like now that I've gotten all the piece of shit parts worked out inside of me, now I'd crush a dad game after putting her through years of hell and therapy and everything else and being raised by me. So
well, that's how we did. Like a little bit after, I'm like, you can't change your mind. And then like even like a month or two ago, my wife's like, man, we could totally have another one.
See, and I told him, I was like, there's no reversing this. So he like snipped the chunk out and tied each end of it. There was no like snipping and tying it.
Yep.
He's like, this is not reversible. So yeah, there's no going back for me.
No.
Well, I feel like that's a great way to end this podcast is talking about our nuts. So wild chaos, right?
Start on one end, end on the other.
Zach, I appreciate the conversation, dude.
Hey,
this is fun. I mean, to get to know each other, and I want to bring the little one up and run some beaver lines with you whenever you're doing it. So, or some sets, I should say. But I think she would love that type of stuff. She's that kid. You ever needed this little apprentice to carry shit? That's her.
We're up there,
dude. Thank you.
Cool, man.
Appreciate this.
Yeah, man.
That was great.
Awesome.
Hey, dude, that was a perfect conversation.